Chapter 33-26. Jin Yang threw out a black card and said directly, "Swipe as much as you need." Ning Shu smiled kindly. "Okay." Of course, he wouldn't be polite. These things were all rubbish. It would be best if he could get some money. Although he would offend Jin Yang, he would offend her many times in the future. Don't think that she didn't feel the murderous aura coming from Jin Yang, especially when she really wanted to swipe the card. It didn't seem like she was joking. "Ning Shu, you asked me to swipe it, and I helped you. You're not happy. If you don't want to, just don't pretend to be generous." Li Guqiu quickly walked over and grabbed the black card from Ning Shu's hand. She stuffed it back into Jin Yang's hand and said, "This is the Li family's business. You don't have to worry about it. It's not your turn to pay." This situation was very similar to that of the Li and Zhang families back then. The only difference was that she hated Zhang Tianbao, and she liked Jin Yang. Jin Yang's actions made her feel even more incompetent and ashamed. Jin Yang casually threw the card in front of Ning Shu. "It's okay. Since you don't like these things, you can buy them and step on them for fun." "Step on them for fun? That's great. Rich people have special thoughts." Ning Shu smiled as if he didn't feel that Jin Yang was mocking him at all. Instead, he asked, "Can I swipe the card now?" "Swipe the card, and these things are yours. Whether you want to step on them, wear them on your head, or throw them in the trash can, it's all up to you." Zhang Tianbao. Li Guqiu gritted her teeth. The current Zhang Tianbao was even more annoying than the previous Zhang Tianbao. At least Li Guqiu couldn't do anything to Zhang Tianbao. She couldn't compete with him in terms of family background. Now, she was in a hurry to break off the engagement, and the initiative was in Zhang Tianbao's hands. "Hey, go ahead. I'm listening," Ning Shu said with a smile. A man who liked to smile would have good luck. Li Guqiu wanted to say something, but she forgot all about it. Ning Shu swiped 20 million yuan from Jin Yang's card and said to Li Guqiu, "These things are yours." In front of Ning Shu, Li Guqiu threw these things one by one into the trash can in the corner, gnashing her teeth. Ning Shu's face was calm. "Anyway, you spent 20 million on it. You can do whatever you want with it." On the other hand, Jin Yang's face trembled. He probably didn't expect that the things he bought would really end up in the trash. He wanted Li Guqiu to play with them, but he didn't expect Li Guqiu to be so straightforward and throw them away. Strictly speaking, these things were bought by Jin Yang for Li Guqiu. Ning Shu said, "Since someone is willing to pay, then help me give them the things on this list." Ning Shu took out a list and pushed it in front of Jin Yang. Jin Yang couldn't hold it in any longer. "Didn't you just give it to me?" Ning Shu nodded. "Just now, you gave me the money for the jewelry. Now, you're giving me the money for the psychological damage. Since you want to break off the engagement, you have to compensate me. These are two different things. As long as you give me the things on this list, or exchange them for money, I will have nothing to do with Li Guqiu from now on," Ning Shu said seriously. "I can also write a contract." Jin Yang sneered, "Your Zhang family must be so poor that you want a second time after the first time." Obviously, Jin Yang wasn't going to give him money this time. Previously, he had spent a lot of money to buy a sports car and more than 20 million yuan for Li Guqiu. God knows why these things were so expensive. Since Jin Yang came to the capital, he was already considered a top earner. However, paying out tens of millions in just a few hours made Jin Yang furious. Ning Shu waved his hand. "Don't worry. My loss is not as expensive as the jewelry. It's only 10 million yuan. Is 10 million yuan a small amount? Who do you think you are? Why do I have to compensate you for the psychological damage? It's good enough that they didn't say that you insulted the eyeball and ask for compensation. Now, you want me to compensate you for the psychological damage?" Ning Shu smiled happily. "You don't have to compensate me. This way, I can marry Guqiu. Compared to 10 million yuan, I still care about Guqiu more. Dream on. I won't marry you even if I die. If you have the ability, you can drag my corpse to get married." Ning Shu said, "If you have the ability, you can turn into a corpse first. If you have the ability, then I have the ability. What's wrong with carrying a corpse to get married? I've been through a lot, and I've seen a lot of perverted things." Li Guqiu threw everything in the box into the bin. It was as if she had thrown everything that had to do with Zhang Tianbao into the bin and removed him from her life. Jin Yang looked at the Li family and couldn't help but shake his head. The Li family really couldn't be helped. They could have just paid 10 million yuan and settled the matter. Was the Li family really so poor that they couldn't even deal with 10 million yuan? Or did they want him to get involved in this matter and then offend the Zhang family so that the Li family could stay out of it? Sure enough, they weren't loyal at all. Damn, the Li family's brain circuit was so long. They wanted to break off the engagement but were afraid of offending the Zhang family, so they dragged him, an outsider, into this matter. In the end, the Li family didn't say anything. They gave him 20 million yuan just to make the beauty smile. At least he could hear the sound of it being thrown into the water. But now, they still wanted him to give them 10 million yuan, right? Old Master Li was a clear-headed person. When he saw Jin Yang staring at the Li family with an unfriendly expression, he knew it was time to make an appearance. Old Master Li put on his reading glasses and looked back and forth at the regulations that Ning Shu had mentioned. Compensation for the loss of youth. Zhang Tianbao, only you have youth. We, Guqiu, don't have youth. A girl's youth is much more valuable than a boy's. Moreover, breaking off the engagement is not good for Guqiu's reputation. Ning Shu looked melancholy. Old Master, how can youth be described with money? It's my care for Li Guqiu all these years. How much effort have I spent? It's not something that can be solved with money. I don't lack money. Compared to money, I'd rather be with Li Guqiu. Ning Shu raised his hand and made a heart gesture to Li Guqiu. But Li Guqiu ignored Ning Shu directly. She kept saying that she didn't lack money and didn't care about money. Now, all she talked about was money. Hypocritical, unscrupulous, disgusting. Ning Shu, that's because you care. If the Li family didn't care about money and just gave it to her, she would have left long ago. She might have already fought with Jin Yang. When the crow said the pig was black, the crow said the pig was black. The Li family felt aggrieved. It was the Zhang family who found all kinds of excuses to take money from the Li family. They didn't even feel happy to give money. That was why the Li family was especially unwilling to give money. Chapter 33:27. The Li family hoped that Jin Yang could fight for justice, and then they wouldn't have to pay the money. Ning Shu looked at Jin Yang, waiting to see how long Jin Yang could endure. She was doing it on purpose. She wanted Jin Yang to do it. But Jin Yang just sat on the sofa and didn't say a word, which disappointed the Li family. But Li Guqiu was very happy. This was originally the Li family's business. If the Li family solved it, then the Li family would owe Jin Yang less, and they would be able to raise their heads in front of Jin Yang. Perhaps only Li Guqiu could smile in the Li family. Jin Yang couldn't suppress his murderous aura. The bodyguards and physiognomist behind Ning Shu all looked at Jin Yang vigilantly. Only Ning Shu was smiling like the silly son of a landlord. It was as if he did not see Jin Yang's unhappy face and wanted to coax him. If you beg for mercy, I'll let you go. Sorry, I'm not going to beg for mercy. Ning Shu guessed that Jin Yang was holding himself back because he didn't want to make a move in public. In that case, I'll help you find a place. Ning Shu received the money from the Li family and immediately said, I've received the money. Now the Zhang family and the Li family have nothing to do with each other. Miss Li, congratulations on getting what you want, but what you want may not be what you want. You've got rid of me, but you probably won't be able to marry the person you love in your life. Because the person you love won't marry you, Ning Shu said slowly. Even if I can't marry the man I love, marrying another man is better than marrying you, Li Guqiu retorted. Ning Shu smiled. If you can't marry the man you love, what's the difference between marrying another man and marrying me? It's the same. Li Guqiu's face was ugly. She glanced at Jin Yang carefully. We have nothing to do with each other. You don't need to care about my business. Ning Shu said, I don't want to care. I just want to hurt your heart. Ning Shu waved to the bodyguards behind him and said, the debt is collected. Let's go. The group of people left casually. Ning Shu sat in the car. The driver said to Ning Shu, Young master, there's a car following behind us. The red sports car was too flashy and eye-catching. It was hard not to notice it after following it all the way. Ning Shu looked at the rearview mirror and said directly, "Don't worry about it. Just drive to the place I told you about." "Young master, it should be Jin Yang catching up. Let's change direction. The place you mentioned is too remote." Ning Shu looked like a rich playboy. "Do you think I'm afraid of him? We have so many people here. Why should we be afraid of Jin Yang alone? Don't be afraid." In the carriage, the physiognomist, who was resting with his eyes closed, opened his eyes and advised, "This child is very talented. The methods of a physiognomist are not something that ordinary people can understand." Ning Shu's attitude towards the physiognomist was very good. He said, "Don't I have you masters here? Jin Yang is alone. We can bully him with numbers." The physiognomist wanted to sigh. At a certain level, they might not be able to win even if they bullied him with numbers. But if he said that, wouldn't it mean that they were incompetent? They didn't want the money anymore. However, after letting this kid suffer a little, he wouldn't dare to rashly provoke a physiognomist. If he didn't rashly confront a physiognomist, they could also relax a little. These physiognomists were actually not very willing to protect a rich playboy, but the money given by the Zhang family was too tempting. They had no choice but to come. None of the physiognomists present had much confidence in facing Jin Yang. They just hoped that they could fight evenly and have a chance to escape. They wanted to let this fearless kid see the methods of a physiognomist. Jin Yang's reputation was neither good nor bad. He basically did business according to his mood. If the other party was an evil person, he wouldn't do business with them. But Jin Yang had forced many of his colleagues to quit being physiognomists. This was a little too much. They were directly forced to quit the world of physiognomists. Even if they could continue to be fortune-tellers in small places, it would be better to be in the capital without any reputation. Learning martial arts, selling it to the imperial family, and working hard to cultivate, wouldn't that be fame and status? Jin Yang's attacks were ruthless. Many physiognomists were unwilling to face him. Jin Yang seemed to have an infinite number of trump cards in his hand. His attacks were endless. It was truly a desperate fight. You thought that was his strength, but in the end, his next move would shock you. Especially at such a young age, the impact on one's mind was not small. They began to doubt whether they were made for this bowl of rice. Otherwise, their decades of experience wouldn't be half as good as half of Jin Yang's. Did they feed their time to the dogs? Jin Yang's actions dealt a blow to the confidence of many physiognomists. The atmosphere in the car was tense, especially when the sports car's speed was getting faster and faster. It was actually parallel to them. Jin Yang opened the top of the car and greeted them. Ning Shu rolled down the window and waved at Jin Yang. "Brother, what are you doing?" What was he doing? This person was probably a retard. Something must have happened to the Zhang family's ancestral grave to give birth to such a retard. The two cars drove fast and furious, going around the winding mountain roads. This mountain road was winding, but it was especially lively at night. It was a must-drive for racers. Jin Yang sped up and drove in front of Ning Shu, blocking the car's path. He braked suddenly, and everyone in the car leaned forward and fell back. Jin Yang got out of the car and knocked on the window. "Get out. There's no point in running anymore." Ning Shu got out of the car with his bodyguards and physiognomists. He crossed his arms and shook his legs, looking arrogant. "Kid, you're tired of living. How dare you block my car?" Jin Yang only cared about the physiognomists. These physiognomists were only average. As for the bodyguards, they were a limitation for ordinary people. For physiognomists, they weren't worth mentioning. "You have to pay me back with interest for taking my things. 30 million. Jin Yang went straight to the point. Ning Shu looked surprised. "Does Li Guqiu know what you're doing? You're a hero in Li Guqiu's heart. You're magnanimous and indomitable. Is it really okay for you to rob like this?" "I'm just robbing the rich to help the poor. Don't worry, other than the 10 million from the Li family, I'll donate the 20 million. It was better to donate it to the people in the mountainous areas than to let Zhang Tianbao have it. It would be too humiliating for Zhang Tianbao to have it." Ning Shu immediately clapped his hands and said, "You're really chivalrous. But you bought something from me and then stole my money. This is what you think is right." Jin Yang couldn't be bothered to argue with this rich kid in front of him. He just wanted to get rid of him quickly. Ning Shu fiercely ordered the bodyguards behind him. Go, protect my safety. Jin Yang wants to kill me. The bodyguards clenched their fists and punched at Jin Yang. Chapter 33:28. Although these bodyguards were big and burly and looked very aggressive, Jin Yang's figure drifted and directly dodged the bodyguards' fists. The bodyguards didn't even touch Jin Yang's hair. Instead, they were beaten up by an invisible force. Do you think it's sad to follow such a master? Jin Yang shook his head at these bodyguards and said with pity. These bodyguards were seriously injured and couldn't get up at all. They were lying on the ground moaning. They lost their attack power after a face-to-face confrontation. Ning Shu looked scared, but he braced himself and said, "These bodyguards are ordinary people. I also have a physiognomist. You guys go." The physiognomist was also quite helpless. Even if they were afraid of you, there was no need to be so cowardly. A fat man hiding behind them. The physiognomist first said to Jin Yang, "Jin Yang, what you did was not right at all. The money has been paid. What is the reason for you to do this?" Jin Yang said lightly, "My money can be taken by anyone, but Zhang Tianbao can't take it. Those things are really worth 20 million. Who are you trying to fool?" Ning Shu stuck his head out from behind the physiognomist. "Of course it's worth 20 million. You don't know the value of the jewelry." Ning Shu had failed to show off. He had just paid and now he wanted to take the money back. This was something that even Ning Shu had never done before. "I thought the famous Jin Yang was great, but you actually did such a despicable thing. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at by the world of fortune-tellers?" Ning Shu shouted at Jin Yang, then hid behind the fortune-teller's back. "It doesn't matter. Just spread it." Jin Yang didn't care at all, as long as these people dared to spread it. Ning Shu felt that Jin Yang's shamelessness was comparable to his. Since the situation was already like this, of course, they had to go. Several physiognomists began to set up a formation, surrounding Jin Yang in the middle. Jin Yang didn't care about these physiognomists. When it came to charms, these physiognomists didn't have as many charms as he did. Moreover, he could draw charms in the air. This was the result of his old man's torture. He could cook 2 dishes at the same time, and they were different dishes. He could fry them and cook them. At first, it was 1 dish, then 2 dishes together, and then 3 or 4 dishes together. At first, he was flustered, but later on, he was able to handle it with ease. At first, Jin Yang didn't quite understand what the old man meant. He guessed that the old man just wanted to eat quickly, so he asked him to do this. From the looks of it now, it was to train him to multitask. When they arrived at the imperial capital, Jin Yang found that the fortune-tellers in the imperial capital were constipated when they tried to draw a talisman in the air. They couldn't draw anything for a long time. Moreover, he had to be completely focused. If he relaxed even a little bit, all his previous efforts would be wasted, and a talisman or curse technique would be wasted just like that. There might even be a backlash. Heavens, are all the physiognomists in the imperial capital so useless? If it was a fight, would they still let you complete the spell or talisman? It was simply a fool's dream. Jin Yang's ability to quickly draw talismans shocked many people. There were also many people who didn't know that Jin Yang could do multiple things at once. Although there were many fortune-tellers, Jin Yang was not afraid at all. These people's movements were as slow as a tortoise in Jin Yang's eyes. Jin Yang began to draw talismans in the air. His movements were very fast, which made the fortune-tellers' hearts tremble. It was as expected. The most frightening thing about Jin Yang was not that he was young, but that his speed of drawing talismans was too fast. You had just finished drawing half of it, but the other side had already finished drawing and already had the power to attack. It was as if you were in despair. If you were in despair, not only would you be counterattacked, but you would also be injured by the other party's power. The speed of drawing talismans and summoning curses was the tireless pursuit of fortune-tellers. The fortune-tellers sped up the movements of their hands, but no matter how fast they were not as fast as Jin Yang. Jin Yang was about to complete the last stroke, and the fortune-tellers' faces turned pale. Suddenly, Jin Yang felt as if his head had been hit by a huge blunt object. His whole mind went blank, and then he didn't know anything. And his talisman was almost completed. Without the support of Jin Yang's power, the energy of the talisman that was not completed directly collapsed and even backfired on Jin Yang. Although they didn't know what had happened, the fortune tellers seized the opportunity in front of them. After the seal was completed, they directly attacked Jin Yang. Jin Yang's mind was already muddled. After being attacked by the power of several people, he directly fell to the ground with a poochy sound and vomited blood. His whole body was in pain as if it was being torn apart. In just a moment, Jin Yang didn't know what had happened. Could it be that someone had launched a sneak attack on him? There were also other powerful fortune tellers around. Did he fall into a trap? Jin Yang had never suffered such a big loss. Could it be that other fortune tellers had gathered here to ambush him and wanted to take revenge? Only a mediocre person would not be envied by others. Jin Yang also knew that he had offended many fortune tellers. But in every profession, if you want to climb up, you have to step on the bones and achievements of others. His existence was bound to block the path of many people. It would be strange if no one wanted to take revenge. Jin Yang wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and jumped up from the ground like a carp. He diverted a part of his energy to check his injuries and found that they were quite serious. At the same time, he observed the surrounding situation to see if there was an ambush. When the fortune tellers saw that Jin Yang was injured, they were quite excited in their hearts. Jin Yang was the god of death in the fortune teller world. Whoever got closer to him would be unlucky. But their cooperation actually injured Jin Yang. If this news spread out, it would definitely make their reputation famous. Fortune tellers didn't pursue fame. After fame, there would be more business. But when they saw Jin Yang's malicious face and his eyes looking at them were very unfriendly, the fortune tellers exchanged glances with each other. If they offended Jin Yang, it was either you die or they die. If they let Jin Yang escape today, they would be the unlucky ones in the future. They knew very well in their hearts that they couldn't beat Jin Yang at all. Although they didn't know what happened to Jin Yang, they only had this one chance. The fortune tellers took out a lot of talisman paper from their bag. Although the power of these talisman paper was not as strong as the curse, there were enough of them. The accumulated damage was enough to make Jin Yang suffer enough. Jin Yang saw the talisman paper flying in the sky and his heart was already gushing with anger. How dare you! Jin Yang quickly formed a seal to release the curse, but at the last moment, he was still interrupted and his head was heavily hammered. At the last moment, he failed on the verge of success again. When the talisman paper floating in the air touched Jin Yang's body, it directly exploded with a bang, like a small firecracker. Although the power of one talisman paper was not great, so many talisman paper would be too much for Jin Yang to bear. The boat capsized in the gutter. Chapter 33:29. Jin Yang suffered 2 backlashes and was injured by several fortune tellers. After that, he was injured by these talismans, causing his injuries to worsen. Moreover, he suffered internal injuries and couldn't help but want to vomit blood. Jin Yang didn't hold back and directly spat it out. This was all congested blood. If he didn't spit it out, it would worsen his injuries. However, when he saw Ning Shu hiding behind the fortune teller without even a speck of dust on his body, Jin Yang still felt very stifled. He couldn't bear to show such a dejected side in front of a hedonistic son. According to Jin Yang's script, Ning Shu should be vomiting blood from the beating and begging him for mercy. The script was completely wrong. You guys didn't follow the script. Except for these bodyguards, none of them were in the script. What was going on with not following the script? Compared to Jin Yang's dispirited state, the fortune teller's morale was greatly boosted. Was there anything more exciting than defeating Jin Yang, who was feared in the fortune teller world? There was nothing at all. This was their only chance in life. If they let it go, they would be letting down their ancestors. More importantly, if they let Jin Yang go, there would be endless trouble in the future. These fortune tellers took out their trump cards and threw them all at Jin Yang. Jin Yang didn't have the strength to fight back. He relied on his strong body to resist. If it wasn't for his daily training and the old man's tempering, Jin Yang felt that he was about to die. It was really strange. What was going on? Every time he was about to use a spell, he was always interrupted at the last moment. Moreover, it was very rudely interrupted. His mind was dizzy and blank. Moreover, his head hurt so much that it felt like it was about to split open. What kind of spell was this? This was something that Jin Yang had never encountered in the capital. Could it be that someone was targeting him and created this thing? As a result, Jin Yang didn't dare to use a spell now. It was especially infuriating that it was interrupted at the last moment. The closer it was to the last moment, the greater the backlash. Jin Yang's specialty was drawing talismans and drawing incantations very quickly. Generally speaking, he would draw talismans and incantations on the spot during a battle, unlike other physiognomists who stuffed their bags full of various talisman papers. Even Jin Yang himself didn't expect that someone like him, who was so good at swimming, would drown. He died at what he was best at. As a result, he did not even have a single talisman in his possession and could only be chased and beaten by a few fortune-tellers. It was impossible for the fortune-tellers to let Jin Yang go. They chased after him and used all kinds of talismans. They were determined to kill Jin Yang. By the time Jin Yang recovered, the unlucky ones would be them. Either you die or I die. Jin Yang ran away, and Ning Shu wanted to chase after him. Several fortune-tellers told Ning Shu to wait here. If he was really scared, he could go to the car and wait. Ordinary people like him couldn't interfere in the battle between fortune-tellers. Ning Shu curled his lips. If I hadn't used my spiritual force to defeat Jin Yang, would you really have succeeded? The current situation was still unknown. She was afraid that Jin Yang had already beaten them to the point of calling him daddy. Ning Shu said arrogantly, I want to see what happens to that bastard. You guys go ahead and chase him. I'll just follow behind. The fortune-tellers were speechless. They really wanted to strangle this pighead. Ning Shu followed behind the fortune-tellers unhurriedly. The fortune-tellers saw that Ning Shu was in their field of vision, so they let him be. Jin Yang didn't drive away. Instead, he flashed into the forest. This mountain road was winding up the mountain, and there were many trees. It was not easy to find him in the forest. Ning Shu released his spiritual force and instantly covered half of the mountain. He saw Jin Yang hiding behind a rock behind the dense vegetation and pouring medicine into his mouth. Ning Shu knew that compared to Jin Yang, he definitely didn't have as thorough a knowledge of spells as Jin Yang. There was no need to use his shortcomings against Jin Yang's strengths. Whether it was drawing talismans or using spells, fortune-tellers needed to be fully focused to draw the power of heaven and earth for their own use. There was no room for any mistakes. No matter how powerful Jin Yang was, he was still a fortune-teller. No matter how fast he drew talismans, he still needed some time. He only needed to be disturbed at the last moment. That would be enough to make Jin Yang fail. Therefore, she was only suitable for sneak attacks, and no one knew what she did. Moreover, the person who asked her to do it didn't have such strong spiritual force. Jin Yang's face was very pale. It was obvious that he was seriously injured. He was very vigilant. When Ning Shu's spiritual force swept past him, he felt that someone was spying on him. It was very dangerous. The capital was really dangerous. Previously, the old man said that the capital was full of talents and that all kinds of monsters and immortals were fighting. He didn't think much of it before, but today he saw it for himself. His cultivation was still not good enough. If the old man saw him in such a sorry state, he would probably beat him with a stick again. Jin Yang touched his chest. It was extremely painful. He had suffered internal injuries. Most importantly, he didn't even see the person who attacked him. He didn't know if he would be able to see the old man again. If he escaped this disaster, the Zhang family would not let it go just like that. Those fortune-tellers dared to kill him because he wasn't famous enough. They would wait until the Zhang family was destroyed. It wasn't enough to destroy the Zhang family. They had to let the descendants of the Zhang family have a taste of poverty and struggle. Jin Yang stood up. He felt a sense of urgency. Someone was chasing after him. Go this way. Ning Shu pointed in a direction and said to the fortune-teller. The fortune teller was speechless. Can't you see the blood here? Ning Shu raised his chin slightly. I haven't read detective novels before. I have some understanding of anti-reconnaissance. Fortune teller, young master, stop fooling around. This was a matter of life and death. When you were dying, you told us that you had some strange experience from reading detective novels. Ning Shu put his hands on his hips. I am the one who hired you. Listen to me. I will take responsibility for any consequences. I don't want to offend such a powerful fortune teller. I can't eat or sleep well. Ning Shu said and ran away. The fortune tellers were helpless and could only chase after him. Their first task was to protect this rich second generation. How could this damn fatty run so fast? This damn fatty was so agile. Ning Shu ran nimbly in the forest. His goal was to catch up with Jin Yang. It would be best if he could get rid of Jin Yang this time. Moreover, it was a battle between fortune tellers. It wouldn't be considered a life. Moreover, it was Jin Yang who wanted to kill her. She had only hired a fortune teller to protect herself. Getting rid of Jin Yang was just getting rid of one person. Moreover, Jin Yang had an unknown fortune teller behind him. To be able to cultivate such an outstanding fortune teller like Jin Yang, he must be a powerful person. If they didn't get rid of that fortune teller, the Zhang family would still walk down that path. After killing the fortune teller's beloved disciple, he would definitely make the Zhang family pay. Chapter 33:30. Therefore, this grudge was resolved and he had to eliminate the source of the problem. Although he didn't know the identity of the old fortune teller, he had gone to live in seclusion in the mountains and groomed such a disciple. He had turned the fortune teller world upside down. It seemed that he wasn't someone easy to deal with. Ning Shu ran very fast. The fortune tellers behind him couldn't catch up and had to rely on the power of the talismans. Jin Yang was very sensitive to danger and sensed that Ning Shu was close. Although he didn't know who it was, he would soon distance himself from him. Ning Shu used his mental energy to attack Jin Yang in front of him. Here it comes again. Jin Yang felt his mind go blank and he almost fainted. But for a moment, his brain didn't listen to him and he couldn't even get up. Ning Shu quickened his pace. The fortune tellers behind him were sticking out their tongues. When they saw Jin Yang curled up on the ground, their eyes lit up. This spoiled brat was really lucky to have actually found Jin Yang. A blind cat bumped into a dead mouse. Anti-reconnaissance? No such thing. It was pure luck. Jin Yang's 7 orifices were bleeding. He was injured by the mental energy. Ning Shu didn't kill Jin Yang because he wanted him to die in the hands of these fortune tellers and not in the hands of Zhang Tianbao. This could be seen as a battle between fortune tellers. When the time came, there would be fewer people who would suspect her. These fortune tellers wanted to be famous while she wanted to hide herself. It was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Jin Yang saw double when he saw people. When he saw these people surrounding him, he couldn't help but feel a sense of despair. He was very unwilling to die in the hands of these people. A hedonistic rich kid and a few mediocre fortune tellers. Normally, such a combination could be easily crushed. But now, he didn't know what was going on. Perhaps there was a hidden expert targeting him. Jin Yang sneered, "So many people bullying me. Shameless." At this time, they talked about grace. At a life and death situation, they talked about morality. When Jin Yang killed people, did he talk about morality? Everyone was a crow and a pig. The fortune tellers seized the opportunity and directly attacked. Jin Yang didn't have any strength to retaliate and used his arm to block the attack. However, an intense golden light suddenly erupted from his body. This golden light made people unable to look at it directly. It was as if their eyeballs were being pricked by needles. The eyes are the weak point, and when injured, the instinct is to protect the eyes. The few of them quickly covered their eyes to avoid being blinded by the strong light. Ning Shu immediately felt that something was wrong, because she felt traces of spatial fluctuations. This trace was very small, and if one did not carefully sense it, they would not be able to sense it. As soon as the strong light disappeared, he saw that the golden sun had indeed disappeared. It was empty. It had disappeared into thin air. The fuck? Could it be that Jin Yang had some sort of teleportation treasure on him? It was really unfair. She couldn't even use the spatial laws in this world, but the other party could actually teleport. He guessed that it was also a cursed technique, but space was something of a higher level. It shouldn't be Jin Yang's item. If Jin Yang had such confidence, then he wouldn't have been so flustered and desperate before. It must be something that the old physiognomist gave him to save his life. Perhaps even Lai Jinyang himself didn't know. Where is he? Why is it gone? These fortune-tellers weren't very strong, so they didn't know anything about the power of a high-level fortune-teller. In the face of Jinyang's sudden disappearance, these fortune-tellers were all dumbfounded. Ning Shu hurriedly rushed back. The fortune-teller hurriedly asked Ning Shu, "Young Master Zhang, where are you going?" Ning Shu's face was quite ugly. He said sternly, "Aren't you going back? Are you going to wait here?" "Go back. Of course we're going back to the parking place. Do you think Jin Yang is so seriously injured that he can walk back with his legs?" Ning Shu's voice was low, which stunned the fortune-tellers for a moment. Then, they hurriedly followed Ning Shu. When Ning Shu arrived, he ate a mouthful of exhaust gas. Ning Shu hurriedly used his mental strength to stop the car, but the car rushed into a black vortex, and soon the people and the car disappeared. Needless to say, they had obviously been teleported away. It was too fucking illegal. At this time, even his mental strength couldn't do anything. It was clearly a modern society, but Ning Shu felt as if he had entered a powerful Xianxia world. However, Ning Shu guessed that the teleportation distance shouldn't be very far. Ning Shu took a deep breath. Well, the snake didn't die but was bitten by the snake. This time, Jin Yang escaped. Next time, Jin Yang would be more difficult to deal with. He would definitely remember this lesson. Next time, he would definitely carry all kinds of charms on him. This time, Jin Yang was careless. Ran away? The fortune-teller saw the sports car disappear and couldn't help but have an ugly expression. This was undoubtedly letting the tiger return to the mountain. Ning Shu immediately smiled and said, "This time, I can beat Jin Yang until he calls me daddy. Next time I can do it. Maybe I can catch up." Ning Shu asked the driver to speed up, but he didn't catch up with the red sports car. Since it ran away, he could still deal with Jin Yang next time. But next time, he definitely couldn't follow these pig teammates. The fortune-teller saw Ning Shu's carefree look and couldn't help but shake his head. He really didn't know anything. Jin Yang wasn't a kind person. If he offended him this time, he would definitely attract his revenge next time. Not only did they not kill Jin Yang, but they also got into trouble. It was really unpleasant. The fortune-tellers immediately made up their minds. They didn't want to help the Zhang family and hide for a while. Ning Shu looked at the flickering eyes of the fortune-tellers and knew what they were thinking in their hearts. It was nothing more than retreating. Although Jin Yang was beaten very badly, he was still a man with a great reputation, so he was still afraid. Especially when he suddenly disappeared at the last moment, it added a bit of a mysterious feeling to Jin Yang. All of a sudden, the fortune-teller's mentality collapsed. Ning Shu didn't say anything. On the way back, the fortune-tellers' faces were bitter. Back home, the fortune-tellers said goodbye to Ning Shu. Father Zhang was knocked out by Ning Shu and had a good sleep. It seemed that he hadn't had such a good sleep in a long time. Father Zhang woke up feeling refreshed. When he got up, the fortune-tellers said to him, "Mr. Zhang, we can't protect your son." Father Zhang looked at Ning Shu, who was sitting with his legs crossed, and asked, "What's wrong? Did my son cause trouble for you?" The fortune-tellers didn't know what to say, so they simply explained the matter. Father Zhang covered his head. Even if he wanted to persuade the fortune-tellers to stay, he couldn't. They had beaten Jin Yang to such a state. This hatred was formed, and in any case, it was for the Zhang family. Father Zhang gave some extra money as compensation and told the fortune-tellers that if they had any problems, they could come to the Zhang family. The fortune-tellers nodded. To be honest, they didn't dare to come to the Zhang family anymore. The fortune-tellers looked at Ning Shu, who didn't know what it was like to be worried, and shook their heads and left. Chapter 33-31. After the fortune-teller left, Zhang Yang's father looked at Ning Shu coldly. You did this while I was asleep. Ning Shu said. At least Jin Yang vomited blood. That's something. Zhang Yang's father laughed. But he ran away. Vomiting blood doesn't kill him. What's the point? It would have been fine if Jin Yang had been killed. But if he hadn't, he should have said that he had gained something. Ning Shu said, we have gained at least 30 million yuan. Zhang Yang's father's face became colder when he heard Ning Shu bragging. 30 million yuan can't even hire a good fortune teller. What's the point? Ning Shu said, it doesn't matter. We have already offended him. Jin Yang's master is really powerful. Zhang Yang's father's face trembled. I really want to kill you, you son of a bitch. Ning Shu said, you're a son of a bitch. Zhang Yang's father frowned. He had just woken up refreshed. Why did he feel so tired now? Children were all debts from the previous life. What did he owe this son of a bitch in his previous life? Why did he have to do this to him in this life? Speaking of which, it's not my fault. You picked the wrong daughter-in-law. That's why everything happened. Our family is the cannon fodder in someone else's life. Ning Shu stabbed a knife into old man Zhang's heart. How long has our family been in business? How many ancestors have we been in business today? What cannon fodder? Don't talk nonsense. Zhang Yang's father didn't want to vent his anger. He beat Ning Shu up. After that, Zhang Yang's father began to contact fortune-teller families. Since ordinary fortune-tellers couldn't deal with Jin Yang, only professional fortune-teller families could. Fortune-teller families were more powerful, and their business was pure. The Zhang family had business dealings with fortune-teller families, but it wasn't easy to hire a powerful fortune-teller. The Zhang family had to pay a price. The atmosphere in the Zhang family was a little tense. They had to be prepared for Jin Yang's revenge. To ensure the safety of the Zhang family, especially Zhang Tianbao's safety, Ning Shu didn't really care. With Jin Yang's situation, he wouldn't be able to cause any trouble for a short time. Not to mention that he had suffered internal injuries and was attacked by a mental attack. It wasn't easy to recover the spiritual sphere. If there was a deficiency in the spiritual aspect, the incantation drawing technique and the talisman drawing technique would be powerless. At the very least, he would be safe during this period of time. However, he couldn't rule out the possibility that the old physiognomist would sense the danger his disciple was in and come out of seclusion. This was the more dangerous thing to do. Jin Yang was already so difficult to deal with. That old physiognomist should be even more difficult to deal with. Moreover, this old physiognomist seemed to be developing freely, absorbing the energy of heaven and earth for his own use. What was the energy of heaven and earth? It was the laws and rules of heaven and earth. It seemed like it wasn't just witchcraft. A normal physiognomist used witchcraft while a powerful physiognomist could use other laws. For example, the law of space. This was too much of a cheat. She couldn't use it because she was being suppressed, but her opponent could use it. Although it was only a little, the space law was definitely an absolute weapon for escaping. For someone who was good at running away, there was nothing he could do. Moreover, he had to face harassment. If he had nothing to do, he would come to harass him and then run away. Since physiognomists could absorb the laws and rules of heaven and earth, then he would learn. When it came to matters where he couldn't use such laws and rules, he might be able to use a little of the power of the laws in this way. A little bit of the power of the laws was very powerful. Ning Shu had thought that he could suppress it with his spiritual power, but now that he thought about it, he was a little too naive. Therefore, he still had to learn physiognomy and the incantation drawing technique. It wasn't just for this world to deal with physiognomists, but also for other worlds. He might be able to use the power of the laws. He might even be able to comprehend the laws more deeply. The physiognomists in this world were really powerful. Who created this model? It didn't seem like an ordinary feng shui master. It felt more profound than the Maoshan Daoist techniques. The Maoshan Daoist techniques used spiritual energy, while the incantation drawing technique of this world used the power of the laws. It was invisible and traceless, but it was quite powerful and mysterious. No wonder physiognomists were so revered and feared at the same time. Even the wealthy families had a good attitude towards these physiognomists. They wouldn't offend them if they could. It was definitely not wrong to learn more. Ning Shu began to write and draw again. He locked himself in his room and usually didn't let anyone enter his room. Father Zhang was worried and even sent someone to guard the door of the room, forbidding Ning Shu from going out and confining him. Now, Zhang Tianbao's problem was more serious than eating, drinking, and playing. He was afraid that he would really be serious. It was better for him to eat and drink and not be serious. Ning Shu didn't care. Anyway, he was studying the incantation drawing technique day and night. He didn't care about anything else. His former friends called to care about Ning Shu, asking why Ning Shu was dumped by Li Guqiu. The Li family had issued an announcement, saying that the children of the two families were not fated to be together, and the engagement was cancelled. Some of his friends who were afraid of chaos even urged Ning Shu to snatch her away. They might as well cook rice. When his belly was big, the Li family would definitely send their daughter over. For these insidious friends, Ning Shu directly blacklisted them one by one. It was a waste of time to talk to them. When he was bored, he would spend some money to let them play with him. Now that he had something serious to do, he naturally didn't need it. The Li family cancelled the engagement. Li Guqiu was like a bird that had been freed. She couldn't believe it and was excited. Every day, she was either arranging flowers or practicing cooking, like a dancing butterfly. Every day, she would cook some nutritious soup for Jinyang. Seeing Jinyang drink the soup she made, Li Guqiu's heart was sweet and happy. There was a feeling of peace and quiet. She didn't know what was wrong with him. Recently, Jinyang often got injured. Previously, she saw him vomiting blood. Once, he came back covered in blood. When he opened the door, he fell directly into her arms. His body was cold like a dead person, which scared her. She didn't dare to call the police and send him to the hospital. She dragged Jinyang to the bed and changed his clothes shyly. His 7 orifices were bleeding. He was seriously injured. Li Guqiu asked several times if there was an enemy coming to seek revenge. Jinyang wouldn't tell Li Guqiu that he had been schemed against by Zhang Tianbao. It was too embarrassing to lose to Zhang Tianbao. He said perfunctorily that he had met a powerful physiognomist and fought for a while. When Jinyang woke up, he checked his body. He thought that he was dead for sure, but the situation changed and he escaped. Zhang Tianbao pulled open the clothes on his chest. There was a complicated mark on his chest. This mark seemed to be wriggling in his flesh, but when he looked closely, it didn't wriggle. It was as if his eyes were playing tricks on him. He remembered that this mark was tattooed on him by the old man. Chapter 33-32. When he got the tattoo, he only felt a little pain and nothing else. When he was surrounded by Zhang Tianbao and the others and was in danger, he felt a heat in his chest and then a strong light burst out. When he closed his eyes and opened them again, he was quite a distance away from where he was before. Although he didn't know what happened, Jinyang took the opportunity to escape. Now that he thought about it, it should be this thing that saved his life. Was the old man at home really that powerful? But it didn't seem like it. He was so wretched. An old man who liked to watch village women bathe when he had nothing to do. He didn't have the demeanor of an expert. Li Guqiu's heart ached. She said to Jinyang, "Can you try not to get injured in the future? Look at you covered in blood. It's scary." Li Guqiu didn't know much about the world of fortune tellers, but seeing Jinyang vomiting blood and getting injured at the slightest move, she was very worried. Jinyang just said, "This is normal." The world of fortune tellers was a place where the strong preyed on the weak. It was a place where everyone fought for fame and fortune. How could it be peaceful? How could a powerful physiognomist be safe and sound? But this was the world of fortune tellers and didn't affect other places. This world still looked like a stable and normal world. But fortune tellers were still flesh and blood. No matter how powerful they couldn't withstand firearms and were still controlled by the country. At the same time, the country also needed fortune tellers. Fortune tellers had many uses. It was just that fortune tellers were usually active in the upper echelons. Ordinary people now believed in science and didn't really believe in fortune telling. Li Guqiu, normal. Jinyang used to look down on ordinary fortune tellers and stuffed a lot of talisman papers on himself. But now that he was at a disadvantage, he felt that he was fine and stuffed some talisman papers on himself. Until now, he still didn't know who the person who plotted against him was. Those fortune tellers weren't strong enough, so it definitely wasn't them. As for Zhang Tianbao, Jin Yang directly ignored him. If a second-generation rich kid could defeat him and sneak attack him, all the things he had learned would be fed to a dog's stomach. It would be the biggest joke in the world. If a rich kid was so powerful, would he still be called a rich kid? When his injuries were healed, he would settle the score with Zhang Tianbao and force him to know who was hiding in the dark and plotting against him. Jin Yang was very afraid of the person hiding in the dark. His head still hurt when he thought about it. Jin Yang was still recuperating from his internal injuries. He needed some expensive Chinese medicine to recuperate. He also needed to cultivate. For the time being, he couldn't attend any events or accept any orders. While Jin Yang was recuperating, the news that Jin Yang was injured and unable to use the gravitational curse technique spread throughout the world of physiognomy masters. This was the news that everyone knew. The fortune teller that Jin Yang had offended before was now eager to take action. He wanted to take advantage of the time when Jin Yang was injured to kill Jin Yang for revenge. There were also some fortune tellers who wanted fame. If they could kill Jin Yang, then they would be famous in the fortune teller world. Thus, wave after wave of fortune tellers searched for Jin Yang. Jin Yang wandered around the imperial capital. He didn't dare to stay in one place for too long, or else he would be caught. Jin Yang's spirit was injured, so he couldn't use the attracting curse technique now. Even drawing talismans was a bit difficult. He didn't have the strength to fight, so Jin Yang avoided the battle. However, many fortune tellers in the world of fortune tellers were looking for him. Li Guqiu resolutely followed Jin Yang. She said that Jin Yang was injured and wanted to stay by his side to take care of him. Li Guqiu was a delicate and weak girl. How could she escape with Jin Yang? Moreover, she could be caught at any time. Jin Yang refused at first, but Li Guqiu insisted. She even threatened to kill herself to follow Jin Yang. The Li family was a fence-sitter. Now that Jin Yang was in dire straits, the Li family wanted to keep a distance from him. The Li family felt very helpless. Some fortune tellers wandered around the Li family when they had nothing to do. They all knew that the Li family had a good relationship with Jin Yang. Li Guqiu rebelled and wanted to follow Jin Yang, which made Li Guqiu's father very angry. He even fiercely said that he didn't have this daughter. However, this still didn't stop Li Guqiu from following Jin Yang. She firmly believed that she hadn't misjudged him. Jin Yang saw that Li Guqiu had fallen out with her family and insisted on running around with him. He was really touched. A young miss who didn't do any household chores was taking care of him like a nanny. Jin Yang also let Li Guqiu follow him and constantly changed places. Jin Yang thought about it and felt that he couldn't stay in the capital anymore. He didn't know how he had become the public enemy of fortune tellers. However, it was inevitable that these fortune tellers in the capital wanted to eliminate him. He had robbed so many people of their business. They were willing to find him. How could they blame him for not having the ability? Jin Yang said to Li Guqiu, "I've decided to go back and see the old man. Do you want to go back with me?" Was he going to see the old man's parents? Li Guqiu's face suddenly turned red. She had heard that Jin Yang was an orphan. It was an old man who picked him up and raised him. This old man was the closest person to Jin Yang. In order to avoid being hunted down, Jin Yang didn't take a plane. Instead, he took a train. The train was full of fish and dragons. It was not easy to be caught. Li Guqiu held Jin Yang's hand. "Okay, I'll go back with you to see Grandpa." Ning Shu received the news that Jin Yang had arrived at the train station. He hurried over. The capital was very big. Finding a person was like finding a needle in a haystack. Ning Shu guessed that Jin Yang might go back to find the fortune teller. After all, Jin Yang had suffered such a big loss. He couldn't let the two of them succeed. But sometimes, things like halos made people feel so helpless. When Ning Shu arrived at the train station, he saw Jin Yang, Li Guqiu, and an old man with a bent figure. He was carrying a snakeskin bag on his back. Even his shoes were full of holes. As soon as he saw the old man, Ning Shu's pupils shrank. If he guessed correctly, This old man might be the fortune teller who gave Jin Yang the life-saving space spell. He didn't look like an unfathomable fortune teller at all. The old man seemed to feel Ning Shu's gaze. He looked in Ning Shu's direction. Ning Shu turned around and left. If the grandfather and granddaughter met, they would be invincible in the world. The fortune teller world in the capital would be turned upside down. At this time, it was useless for her to go up. She could only be suppressed and beaten. She was a playboy. She had to hide her strength. Although she had peerless martial arts to escape, she didn't want to expose her strength. It was good to be a playboy. The two troublesome fortune tellers would give the fortune tellers in the capital a headache. But the first to bear the brunt was the Zhang family. Jin Yang and the fortune teller would definitely come to find trouble with the Zhang family first. Then, they would settle the score with the other fortune tellers one by one. It was a little worrying. It was really easy to start a business but hard to keep it. This mission was to protect the Zhang family, but it wasn't easy at all. Ning Shu returned home and saw that there were many guests at home. They were all fortune tellers. Chapter 33-33. Zhang Ziyan's father was quite fast. He had found so many fortune tellers in such a short time. But could so many fortune tellers really defeat the grandfather and grandson? Ning Shu felt that it was more reliable to rely on these people to study the attracting curse technique. Since the other party could use the space attracting curse technique to teleport away, she could use the attracting curse technique to seal the space. It all depended on whose understanding was deeper. When Zhang Ziyan's father saw Ning Shu's listless expression, he wanted to kick him. Look at what he had done to the Zhang family. These are the uncles of the Zhuang family. Say hello, Zhang Ziyan's father said to Ning Shu. The Zhuang family? A fortune teller family? Ning Shu immediately bowed and greeted them. Then, like a curious child, he asked, Uncle, fortune tellers are really amazing. I saw Jin Yang disappear in front of me. He disappeared all of a sudden. Then he appeared somewhere else. What kind of power is this? Let me give you a reminder. The Zhuang family was indeed a fortune teller family. When they heard Ning Shu's words, they immediately thought of the space attracting curse technique. They said to Ning Shu, tell us what happened at that time. Ning Shu told them everything in detail. Of course, he omitted his role in it. Then, he looked at the fortune teller and asked, are fortune tellers immortals? Why can they disappear all of a sudden? The Zhuang family's face was very serious. He said to Zhang Ziyan's father, this time, the Zhang family offended an amazing fortune teller. The attracting curse technique could attract thunder and lightning. There were also more advanced elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. A sudden disappearance like this was most likely the space attracting curse technique. Such a technique was hard to catch. Zhang Ziyan's father was speechless. This was a bloody case caused by a woman. Ning Shu continued, I don't think Jin Yang would do it. After all, he was beaten very badly before and didn't use any ability. But at the critical moment, it seemed to be triggered. Doesn't Jin Yang have a master? His master should be more powerful. Everyone was speechless. What kind of truth was this? The Zhang family was going to be in big trouble. The fortune teller of the Zhuang family wanted to make money, but in this situation he couldn't make money. He might even lose his life unless he called the most powerful fortune teller in the family. However, a powerful physiognomist wouldn't appear just because he wanted to. Thus, all the fortune tellers in the living room took their leave. Bastard, I'm going to kill you. Zhang's father's face was gloomy. He grabbed the fruit plate on the table and threw it at Ning Shu. Ning Shu dodged the fruit platter, and the fruit in the fruit platter rolled everywhere. Ning Shu said, Dad, there must be a way. There will be a way. Mr. Zhang was so angry that he had a cerebral hemorrhage. He waved his hand weakly at Ning Shu. Get lost. Ning Shu quickly went upstairs and locked himself in his room. If he really couldn't do it, he could just expose himself and use the attracting curse technique. He would use the methods of a physiognomist, and then find an opportunity to say that he was crippled, and that he would never be able to use the incantation technique again. It didn't matter if the client didn't know how to use the methods of a physiognomist. Unless it was a last resort, Ning Shu didn't want to expose himself. However, if no physiognomist was willing to accept the Zhang family's order, then he could only do it himself. Since the other party was good at escaping, then she would use the space seal. The space was sealed and it was like a cage. Let's see how he could escape. Ning Shu sat cross-legged on the bed and began to practice the attracting curse technique. The attracting curse technique was to use the laws of heaven and earth to exert their power through a medium. The power wasn't great, but under the suppression of the plane, the power wasn't small. Jin Yang was also scolded by the old man. The old man checked Jin Yang's body and saw that Jin Yang's body was very damaged. His face didn't look good. I told you that the physiognomists in the capital aren't simple. Why didn't you listen? Do you think it's still our small village? Jin Yang was very tired during this period of time. He was exhausted from running for his life and didn't have time to heal. Now that he saw the old man, his heart was a little sour. Old man, I'm your grandson. I was beaten so badly. You have to take revenge for me. If you want revenge, take revenge yourself. If you can't even do it yourself, what qualifications do you have to survive in the world of physiognomists? But tell me about the situation. Li Guqiu watched the grandfather and grandson talk at the side and prepared food for the two of them. Li Guqiu tried her best to appear virtuous in front of the elders. After a period of wandering, Li Guqiu had completely transformed. She was no longer the delicate girl from before. She had suffered all kinds of hardships. She felt that her relationship with Jin Yang had become stronger. Although her family had cut off her money and frozen her accounts, Li Guqiu's heart had never felt more at ease. Now that the Li family had treated her like this, she didn't owe them anything. The Li family could no longer ask her to do this or that in the future. Jin Yang was the person she had set her mind on. No matter what the future was like, she wouldn't regret it. Li Guqiu became even more determined, although it was because of love. Whether it was because of love, friendship, or family, becoming stronger was becoming stronger. While eating, Li Guqiu said to the old man, "Grandpa, I also want to learn physiognomy from you." The old man and Jin Yang both looked at Li Guqiu in surprise. The old man asked, "Why do you want to learn physiognomy?" "I want to help Jin Yang." During this period of escaping, Li Guqiu understood the importance of strength. The old man said, "Give me your hand." Li Guqiu hesitated for a moment and reached out her hand. The old man touched it carefully and looked very wretched. Jin Yang's face darkened. "Old man, I'm touching the bones. I won't do anything to a little girl," the old man said. "You're too old to learn physiognomy. You have to abandon some things to learn it. My disciple is an orphan. She was abandoned by her family and lost her family. What can you lose? I can also lose my family. The people of the Li family were not real family except for blood relatives. You've never had family. How can you lose them? If you learn physiognomy, you will lose your love." Li Guqiu glanced at Jin Yang and quickly withdrew her hand. She couldn't sacrifice her love. She wanted to be strong to protect her love. But if she was strong, she would lose her love. This was completely putting the cart before the horse. Li Guqiu said, "I don't want to learn it." The old man smacked his lips. "Young people have no perseverance. Who said you will lose the person you love? Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's your appearance or your limbs." Li Guqiu was so scared that she shook her head. She couldn't lose her appearance or limbs. She didn't want to learn it. Jin Yang knew that the old man was scaring Li Guqiu because he didn't want to teach her. The old man wasn't very satisfied with him. He was even more unwilling to teach a girl like Li Guqiu. The old man was very lazy. Since then, Li Guqiu didn't talk about learning physiognomy anymore. Chapter 33-34. Jin Yang returned to his previous rented house. With the old man around, it was useless even if an army came. When they found out that Jin Yang had returned, the fortune teller came to his door and tried to take his life while he was sick. However, the fortune teller raised his hand and half crippled him. Many people were injured, and no one dared to provoke him anymore. The fortune teller prepared a lot of medicinal baths for Jin Yang and some expensive medicinal herbs to nourish his body. The disciple that he had carefully nurtured was beaten to such a state. The fortune-teller was holding back his anger and was very ruthless to these fortune-tellers who came to sneak attack him. He either crippled an arm or a leg, or directly crippled their cultivation. He hadn't come out for too long. Now, the fortune-teller world completely forgot about him. There were too many people who suffered losses. The fortune-tellers didn't dare to rashly go up. Instead, they wandered around, wanting to inquire about information. Wasn't Jin Yang injured? Why was he still so powerful? Soon after, news was released that Jin Yang's master had come to the imperial capital. He thought that the fortune-teller who was proficient in the spatial curse technique had a high cultivation level and warned the fortune-tellers not to rashly provoke him. What? Spatial curse technique? Jin Yang's master? If Jin Yang was so powerful, then how powerful would his master be? What was the spatial curse technique? When the low-level fortune-tellers heard these things, they were simply dumbfounded. To them, drawing talismans in the air without talisman paper or pen was an abyss that they couldn't cross. They didn't know anything about the curse technique. Hearing that the other party was so powerful, some fortune-tellers gave up on stepping on Jin Yang to rise to the top. Not to mention rising to the top, they would directly go to hell. The fortune-teller was a little surprised. The news in the imperial capital is quite fast. I haven't been here for long, but they have already found out about me. But these are all one-sided things. His strength was not something these people understood at all. Jin Yang decided to tell the truth to the old man. Old man, my head is injured. Every time I draw talismans or use the curse technique, my head hurts. This made Jin Yang a little panic. Although he could endure it, it hurt every time. It made him a little afraid to use the curse technique. The old man quickly checked Jin Yang's mental state and asked, "Did someone attack your mental state? Is that why this happened?" The old man's expression was particularly ugly. It was especially difficult to find people with strong spiritual power because the stronger one's spiritual power was, the more energy one could absorb when using the priming curse technique. If someone had tampered with Jin Yang's spiritual power, then it meant that they wanted to cut off Jin Yang's path as a physiognomy master. Don't worry, you'll be fine after a while. This will take some time to recover. I've prepared some extra medicinal baths for you, so soak in them. The old man decided to take a walk in the world of physiognomy. Give me the information of the physiognomist who wants to fight with you. I'll make a trip there. Since you're trying to backstab me, don't blame me for destroying your path as a physiognomist. Jin Yang told the old fortune-teller about the identity of those fortune-tellers, and the old fortune-teller went to find them. Probably sensing the danger, those fortune-tellers ran off without a trace. The old fortune-teller found a fortune-teller in the imperial capital and beat him half to death. The fortune-teller cried and begged for mercy. To be honest, he didn't know what a spiritual attack was. There was no such thing. Seeing that he couldn't get anything out of him, the old fortune-teller went to the Zhang family. The servant of the Zhang family opened the door and saw the sloppy old fortune-teller. He said directly, "Where did this beggar come from?" Ning Shu came down from upstairs and said to the servant, "Invite the old man in. I didn't know that he was a powerful fortune-teller. You'll have to bear the consequences." "Old man, why are you looking for me?" Ning Shu said to the old fortune-teller. "You actually know me." The old fortune-teller walked in casually and sat on the sofa. There was a smell of sweat on his body and it was a little rancid. Ning Shu acted as if he didn't smell it. Usually, fortune-tellers appeared to be experts. This old fortune-teller really didn't look like an expert. Ning Shu asked the servant to bring up a bottle of the strongest wine. The old fortune-teller looked at Ning Shu and said, "You know what's good for you." Ning Shu said, "I have a conflict with Jin Yang. Jin Yang is so powerful. Now that his master is here, I have to pay attention to him. Your appearance has been spread all over the fortune-teller world. Of course, I know you. I won't beat around the bush with you. Besides you and a few fortune-tellers, who else is there?" The old fortune-teller looked at Ning Shu. Although he was old, his eyes were very sharp. Ning Shu thought for a moment and shook his head. "There are bodyguards." The old fortune-teller said, "Besides bodyguards, are there any other fortune-tellers?" Ning Shu thought for a moment. "No, My father didn't hire any other fortune teller. It's very expensive to hire one. The fortune tellers in the imperial capital are very noble and cold. It's impossible to not pay. The old fortune teller didn't come to chat with Ning Shu. He directly interrupted Ning Shu. Are you sure there are no other people? Even if there are others, my energy is all on Jin Yang. How can I know there are others? Even if there are others, they are hiding. How can I see them? Ning Shu was unhappy. He acted like a playboy again. The old fortune teller stared at Ning Shu. Damn fatty, are you not telling me the truth? Do you want me to torture you? You're still calling me a damn fatty. I've already lost weight. Ning Shu suddenly became terrified. He almost knelt down and said directly, Sir, I really don't know. Even if you beat me to death, I still don't know. The fortune teller probably thought that this second-generation rich kid wouldn't dare to lie to him. He also thought that there should be someone lying in ambush. Basically, no one would think that it was Ning Shu. After all, a person who had been eating, drinking, and playing for more than 20 years was really useless. How could such a person be an expert? Even if he was an expert, how could he hide for more than 20 years? He automatically filtered out Ning Shu. This was the blind spot of thinking. Once an inherent impression was formed, it was very difficult to change. They refused to believe the truth. The fortune teller didn't find the person who plotted against Jin Yang. He felt very uncomfortable, so he went to find the fortune teller who had a grudge with him in the past. He stirred up a storm in the fortune teller world. Ning Shu just watched quietly. It was best to let this grandfather and grandson act. When the time came, it would be best if there were fortune tellers to deal with the two of them. Then she could fish in troubled waters. Now, she had to hurry up and practice the attracting curse. The other party was good at space, so she focused on space. They could run, but what if they couldn't? The reason why the fortune teller didn't deal with the Zhang family now was that he wanted to leave the Zhang family to Jin Yang. He left it for Jin Yang, the cub, to grind its teeth. If even the Zhang family couldn't deal with it, Jin Yang couldn't leave at all. Now that Jin Yang was injured and needed time to recuperate, it was also time for Ning Shu. When the time came, it wasn't certain who would win. Chapter 33-35. Ning Shu felt that she was more suitable for the underworld. Now that everyone was here, it would be easier to deal with the master and disciple together than one by one. Ning Shu didn't know how profound the old physiognomist's space law was, but he felt that it shouldn't be very strong. If it was really strong, it could just leave this world. Why bother to create trouble here? It was totally possible to go to the void and leave this world. But looking at the old physiognomist, it seemed that he had only touched the door and hadn't even crossed the threshold. Space law was so difficult, especially when one didn't have close contact with it. She had been tortured to death by the space laws. In a normal world, if someone could comprehend the awesome space laws and ascend, that would be the true awesomeness. Unless it was Jin Yang, maybe a later stage Jin Yang could do it. But Ning Shu definitely wouldn't let Jin Yang reach the later stage. Old man Zhang rushed back and asked Ning Shu, Jin Yang's master came. Are you okay? Ning Shu said, I'm fine. Old man Zhang's face was very ugly. Coming in and out of our house is like a no man's land. He could walk around the house at any time, and there was no sense of security at all. Damn it. Old man Zhang had never met such an arrogant physiognomist who came to step on his face. We have to find a physiognomist to stay in the Zhang family. Alright, I asked your aunt and the rest to go back to the ancestral home. Old man Zhang looked at Ning Shu and sighed silently. Son, after going through this, grow up a little. Ning Shu nodded. Don't worry, I'm growing by leaps and bounds now. Old man Zhang held his forehead. He was really helpless. After going through this, the Zhang family would probably be damaged. Ordinary money couldn't attract a physiognomist anymore. If they wanted to hire a powerful physiognomist, they didn't need to spend a lot of money. Old man Zhang felt that his head was going bald. To have such a son, he probably destroyed the universe in his previous life. Ning Shu said, actually, we owe Li Guqiu, not you. Every time old man Zhang looked at her, his face would say, fuck your 18 generations of ancestors. which made Ning Shu's balls hurt. We have 18 generations of the same ancestor. Could he be blamed for this? You were the one who didn't have a good eye in choosing a daughter-in-law and implicated the entire family. Ning Shu and Father Zhang played football with each other. It was common for wealthy families to rise and fall, but the Zhang family's fall was a little tragic. Not only was the family ruined, but they also implicated their future generations. Ning Shu used the water law invisibility effect of the gravitational curse technique and directly touched Jin Yang's rented house, wanting to cripple Jin Yang in one fell swoop. Since mental strength was so useful to a physiognomist, Ning Shu directly started with mental strength. However, if Jin Yang was crippled, the old physiognomist might go crazy. The Zhang family might not be able to withstand the crazy old physiognomist. Because the mantra summoning technique could only draw upon a small amount of law power, the duration of invisibility was not very long. Ning Shu turned invisible when she got close to the house. However, the house was surrounded by feng shui arrays. If she stepped in, she would definitely be discovered. One step at a time. This old man is quite powerful. He was probably one of the strongest people in the world. How many people in the physiognomist world could compete with him? When Ning Shu thought about it, she felt that the Zhang family was like a broken boat in a storm. Sooner or later, they would be destroyed. This was probably the will of the heavens. Ning Shu was probably going against the heavens now. A little powerless. And the other party was so strong that people in the physiognomist world didn't want to provoke them. They had money but no life to use it. What a coward. Ning Shu looked at the rented house. The orange light shone through the window, giving a warm feeling. There was an old man and two young people inside. It was a bit like a warm family. Needless to say, Li Guqiu was definitely inside. Ever since Jin Yang was hunted down by the physiognomists, the Li family said to the outside world that they didn't have a daughter named Li Guqiu. The Li family had nothing to do with Jin Yang. To be honest, the Li family's actions were really too low. If it wasn't for Li Guqiu, their daughter with a halo, they probably wouldn't have been able to survive until now. The Li family survived the crisis by letting their daughter get engaged to Zhang Tianbao. Later, they relied on their daughter to win Jin Yang's favor. They used one and threw one away. This was why the Li family was so weak. Although the business world was like a battlefield, if you didn't care about morals, the Li family wouldn't be able to develop. Father Zhang was very cautious now and didn't attack the Li family. After all, the Li family's daughter was with Jin Yang. If they targeted the Li family, Jin Yang might interfere. Not only did the Zhang family not dare to attack the Li family, but even some other families avoided them. A strong physiognomist was just so amazing. They felt like they could block thousands of troops and horses. Now, everything went smoothly for the Li family. During this period of time, they were expanding and acquiring many small businesses. Even if they met a strong family, they wouldn't fight. This allowed the Li family to gain many benefits. The Li family felt like they had become a rich family. All sorts of indicators were rising. Soon, they would squeeze into a rich family. It felt like a dream. As long as Jin Yang and the old physiognomist were there, the Li family could use this to make others fear them. But if they couldn't rely on Jin Yang and the physiognomist, the Li family would suffer a huge backlash. They would probably have to spit out everything they had eaten. Ning Shu stared at the window. He couldn't go in. The old physiognomist was Jin Yang's tortoise shell. With the old physiognomist around, Jin Yang would be fine. In the rented house, the old physiognomist walked to the window and looked outside. Then he pulled the curtains. Jin Yang asked, "Old man, what's wrong?" The old physiognomist sat down and asked, "Did you offend some powerful physiognomist in the capital?" "I don't think so. Could it be that the old one came after I beat up the young ones?" The people he offended were all small fries. Who knew what kind of old ghost was behind them? Someone is watching outside. It's very sinister. The old physiognomist said. Jin Yang frowned. Is it the person who sneaked up on me? He has the ability to sneak up on people but doesn't have the ability to meet people. There are many people like that in the world of physiognomists. They're very sinister. The old physiognomist said calmly. He asked Liguccio to make a cup of tea for him. Liguccio silently went to make tea for the old physiognomist. Then she brought it to him. The old physiognomist smacked his lips and drank the tea. Liguccio stood silently to the side. She didn't have much of a presence. Her face didn't change at all. She was still as beautiful as ever. Her figure didn't change either. She was still a graceful lady. However, Liguccio's body seemed to be covered in a layer of dust. It was like a pearl covered in dust. It was no longer shiny and shining. Liguccio had probably been reduced to a maid in this family. If the two men needed anything, they would directly ask Liguccio. Liguccio was a rich young lady. Usually, when she went out, she would have a driver to pick her up. She also had servants at home. She had never done such chores before. Chapter 33-36. She sacrificed herself for love and became an ordinary woman who made soup with her bare hands. Occasionally making soup with her bare hands was fun. What about a month, half a year, 5 years, 10 years? When fun became a career, there was no fun to speak of. Without a chance to play dirty, Ning Shu decisively withdrew and sneaked home. She concentrated on practicing the attracting curse technique. Now her attracting curse technique could seal a relatively large space. The larger the sealed space, the better. And the stronger the space, the better. At that time, even if she wanted to escape, she couldn't. She had to find a group of fortune-tellers to fight with Jin Yang. Only then could she play dirty. If she went alone, wouldn't she be exposed? Soon the opportunity came. Father Zhang said to Ning Shu, "The triennial fortune-teller competition will begin in a week. This time, the host of the competition is the Zhuang family." "Oh, the fortune-teller family, the Zhuang family. There's a competition for fortune-tellers?" Ning Shu was a little curious. After all, the client didn't know what was going on at all. Why isn't there a competition? It's all funded by the rich and powerful families. They also need to recruit talents. The rewards are very generous. It's a grand ceremony in the fortune-teller world. It was a mutually beneficial thing. And the champion would get a powerful magic weapon. This time, we invited Jin Yang. The fortune-teller we invited will kill Jin Yang in the competition, Father Zhang said viciously. Ning Shu nodded. This was an opportunity. The two sides were already in a situation where one side had to die. If there was a chance, of course, he had to kill Jin Yang. Ning Shu said, "I just don't know if Jin Yang will participate." Ning Shu felt that the fortune-teller asked Jin Yang to come to the capital to participate in the fortune-teller competition and make a name for himself in the fortune-teller world. However, there was an accident midway. The fortune-teller sensed it and came to the capital on the way. Now Jin Yang's situation was a little bad. If he didn't participate, it would be in vain. "I've already sent the invitation. He should come." Father Zhang said, "Jin Yang is young and famous. He is more conceited. He will definitely come." Ning Shu didn't say that Jin Yang had a mental problem. Otherwise, she would have to find an excuse if Father Zhang asked. Ning Shu now very much hoped that Jin Yang would come. It would be easier with more people. Under such circumstances, of course he had to go. Ning Shu drew a lot of charms for himself and also drew some charms for Old Man Zhang. Then he directly injected them into Old Man Zhang's body. Father Zhang was oblivious. To be honest, Old Man Zhang treated the client quite well. After causing such a big trouble, the client must have been beaten to death. They didn't treat their children like the Li family did. Mr. Zhang was very protective of his son. The Zhuang clan was a clan with a lot of history. It had been a few hundred years, and many of the places they lived were relatively remote. However, they occupied a large area and had an ancient style. It was obvious that they were a clan with a lot of history. Old Man Zhang brought 3 fortune-tellers with him. These 3 fortune-tellers were older and were not here for the competition. They were hired by Old Man Zhang to protect him. At the same time, he could also protect Ning Shu, who was a burden. Mr. Zhang wanted to lock Ning Shu at home, but Ning Shu jumped out of the window and followed them. Mr. Zhang really wanted to hammer this bastard to death. The Zhuang family arranged for the father and son's rooms to be next to each other. Fortune tellers from various sects came one after another, but everyone stretched their necks and waited for Jin Yang and his disciple. Actually, everyone wanted to meet the fortune teller openly. One was a powerful fortune teller, and the other was a young fortune teller. Ning Shu ate and drank every day and observed the fortune tellers from various sections. He realized that these fortune tellers used different curse techniques and focused on different things. They were proficient in the same thing. When gathered together, it was the laws of a world: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Ning Shu hadn't experienced time yet. It wasn't easy to guide the curse with time. As the time of the competition approached, Jin Yang and the fortune teller didn't show up. Ning Shu was a little disappointed. Were they not coming? In a place where fortune tellers gathered, Jin Yang actually didn't show up. This didn't make sense. If she missed this opportunity, she would have to expose herself to deal with Jin Yang. This world was really. A day or two after the competition started, Jin Yang and the fortune teller came slowly and appeared in the limelight. They appeared with a duong sound, as if they were alive. Those who knew their stuff knew that this was a spatial curse. Such an outstanding appearance made all the fortune tellers present a little stunned. However, the banker immediately greeted the master and disciple and was very polite. Li Guqiu also appeared. Ning Shu looked at Li Guqiu. Li Guqiu was definitely a little thin. Her temperament was still so melancholic. He didn't feel the magic of love. Hiss! Ning Shu felt pain in his ear. Father Zhang, who was beside him, was pulling his ear. Father Zhang warned, "Watch your dog eyes. She's not your fiancée anymore. Don't stare at her with your perverted eyes. Don't cause trouble." Ning Shu touched his ear and stopped looking at Li Guqiu. It would be strange if he had any feelings for Li Guqiu. Since he wasn't allowed to look at Li Guqiu, he looked at Jin Yang. Jin Yang was full of energy and seemed to be in a very good state. He didn't seem to be depressed at all. This meant that Jin Yang's mental damage had been healed. Ning Shu was speechless. This fortune teller was simply a monster. Why did he have so many trump cards? He was practically Jin Yang's treasure chest. The competition started. The fortune teller competition wasn't like a martial arts competition. Instead, it used the energy of heaven and earth to compete. The moves were more dazzling. The wealthy families paid attention to the fortune tellers on the field. If there was an outstanding performance, they would recruit them and nurture them. It was better to have one's own fortune teller than to look for fortune tellers everywhere. Ning Shu's father asked, "Daddy, why don't we have a fortune teller?" Father Zhang wanted to strangle Ning Shu. "Son, fortune tellers need a lot of money. The family doesn't agree." "Does our family lack this bit of money?" An army was trained for 1,000 days to be used in an instant. Father Zhang said, "There are some things in the family that you don't know. I'll tell you next time." Ning Shu looked terrified. "Is our family going to go bankrupt?" Father Zhang cared for his retarded son and smiled. Watch the competition. Since Jin Yang was participating in the competition, he naturally had to go on stage. Jin Yang's opponents didn't have any fighting spirit at all. They were completely defeated by Jin Yang. Jin Yang easily defeated them. He didn't even use 10% of his strength. From Ning Shu's observation, Jin Yang's talisman drawing was very smooth. There wasn't a trace of stagnation. Now, Ning Shu was sure that Jin Yang's mental strength had recovered. Among the younger generation of fortune tellers, Jin Yang was invincible. Even some of the older fortune tellers couldn't compare to Jin Yang. As soon as Jin Yang went on stage, Li Guqiu handed him a glass of water. Jin Yang took it and drank it. He seemed to be in a very natural state. Ning Shu felt that Jin Yang was probably used to Li Guqiu's sacrifice. The later part of the competition became more intense. It was common for fortune tellers to get injured. There were even deaths, causing the atmosphere to become even more solemn and oppressive. Chapter 33-37. Ning Shu didn't know that Father Zhang had arranged for the fortune tellers to wear Jin Yang down during the competition. Ning Shu felt that the fortune tellers in the competition couldn't do much damage to Jin Yang. Jin Yang outshone everyone else in the fortune teller world. She was so outstanding that other fortune-tellers couldn't make a name for themselves. Any fortune-teller would pale in comparison to Jean Yang's brilliance. The fortune-tellers present all had ugly expressions. The fortune-teller chuckled. After leaving the fortune-teller world for so many years, these fortune-tellers still haven't made any progress. They can't even compare to a child. Sarcasm. There was no way to refute it. The truth was right in front of them. Ning Shu's father asked, "Have you found out who this fortune-teller is?" Such a powerful fortune-teller couldn't be unknown. Father Zhang said, "Someone has found out. A fortune-teller named Fan who retired 25 years ago. He's from the Fan family." The Fan family? Ning Shu looked at the Fan family. The Fan family was one of the fortune-teller families other than the Zhuang family. Clearly, the fortune-teller of the Fan family had recognized this person and was glaring at him. However, the fortune-teller didn't care at all. He drank tea and watched the competition. "I heard that this fortune-teller stole his family's heirloom and ran away. There's been no news of him for so many years." Ning Shu was speechless. But the fortune-teller was very good at stealing his family's heirloom. Well, the Fan family was an ally that could be won over. The Fan family's eyes were red. They probably hated this fortune-teller to the core. They might start a conflict before the competition was over. Once the situation became chaotic, her chance would come. Once she got rid of the fortune-teller and Jin Yang, the Li family wouldn't be a threat. The people the Li family had offended during this period of time would pounce on them like wolves and tigers when the Li family had no one to rely on. As for Li Guqiu, without the Li family and Jin Yang, she wasn't a threat either. The most interesting part of the competition was the duel between Jin Yang and the fortune-teller of the Fan family. It really felt like someone had killed their father. However, the fortune-teller of the Fan family was no match for Jin Yang. Jin Yang wasn't polite to the fortune-teller of the Fan family. If the Fan family's physiognomist had not admitted defeat in time, he would have been killed by Jin Yang. In such a brutal situation, even the Zhuang family had no choice but to step in. Competition second, friendship first. Don't overdo it. But these words were of no use. The atmosphere was getting more and more tense. These fortune-tellers were all targeting Jin Yang. Anyone could see that the champion was rising. It was Jin Yang. Jin Yang was too strong, causing the other fortune-tellers to band together and do their best to exhaust Jin Yang. Perhaps the fortune-teller in the next round would be able to stop Jin Yang's footsteps. Ning Shu began to doze off as he watched. The competition was just child's play. Only after the competition was over would they have a feast. Only when the experts of the world of physiognomy fought would it be interesting. Jin Yang stood at the end in a spurt of energy and obtained the greatest victory. The reward for the champion was very bountiful. Just the monetary reward alone was 100 million, and there was also a magic tool that even money couldn't buy. Just as Jin Yang was about to receive the award, someone started to make a move. He questioned Jin Yang's age, saying that Jin Yang was already over 25 years old. This kind of competition was a competition for young fortune-tellers. It was a friendly exchange to see the potential of the young fortune-tellers. The old fortune-teller sneered. He knew that these people would make a move. This time, they came back to settle some scores. "Do you think I don't know how old this kid is?" He sneered. As the organizer, since the Zhuang family had such doubts, they naturally had to appraise Jin Yang's age to convince the public. This kind of scene was a bit insulting to Jin Yang. Let's examine his bones. The changes in the human body's bones were different with age. In order to ensure fairness, there would be more than one person touching his bones. But if no one touched his bones, then there would be no reward, and the fortune-teller world would not recognize Jin Yang as the champion. Then the reward would be given to the second place, and the second place would be promoted to first place. The officials would not recognize Jin Yang as the champion. No matter what the situation was, for Jin Yang, he felt that it was a bit unjustified. These fortune-tellers are really good at playing mind games. The main thing was that Jin Yang was too strong, and the old fortune-teller was targeted by the Fan family. Then the question of age came out. There needed to be an excuse, not an excuse of age, but some other excuse. Ning Shu saw the calm look on Father Zhang's face and whispered, "Daddy, did you already know?" Father Zhang said lightly, giving Ning Shu a feeling that he was pretending to be cool. "It's normal. The tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind." The fortune teller of the Zhuang family said gently to Jin Yang, "Mr. Jin, we need to appraise your age. Do you agree?" Jin Yang's face was very ugly, and he felt like he had been forced to eat shit. He didn't care about such a competition, but it was too disgusting to do this at the last minute. Jin Yang looked at the fortune teller, and the fortune teller said calmly, "Some people are useless, but they think that others can't do it. Jin Yang, let them appraise your age." Jin Yang is only 23 years old. Jin Yang still respected the fortune teller and nodded in agreement. Jin Yang was touched by some old men and greasy men again and again, and he was very sick of it. Then they would vote. If there were more yes votes, Jin Yang would be the champion, and if there were more no votes, Jin Yang's age would be fake. Then, if there were more no votes, Jin Yang's age would be fake, and he would not be the champion. Jin Yang's face became very ugly. His age couldn't be fake, so the competition had to be fake. The fortune teller shook his head. The world of fortune tellers now is completely rotten. The fortune teller stood up. "We don't need such a champion. Let these clowns and frogs at the bottom of the well have fun. Jin Yang, let's go." At this time, the Fan family jumped out. "Fan Dong, hand over the thing, or don't think about leaving today." The fortune teller said directly, "No, the thing, I've already used it." The Fan family's faces were very ugly, and they surrounded the two. The fortune teller didn't put the Fan family in his eyes at all. Although they were from the same sect, the fortune teller didn't have any sense of belonging to this family. "Where did this thing come from? You don't have any idea, and you don't know where it came from. How can you say that I took something from your family?" The Fan family was very disgusted with this rebellious Fan Dong, but he was indeed very strong. Ning Shu didn't even think. He gathered his spiritual energy and hit Jin Yang's head. After that, Ning Shu immediately retracted his spiritual energy and didn't attack anymore. He stood obediently behind Father Zhang, curious but not daring to go up. Chapter 33-38. He wanted to see what this child could achieve in the future, but he didn't expect it to be ruined midway. Who was it? The old physiognomist's eyes were red. He wanted to protect Jin Yang's mind, but he didn't dare to use his mental power. The old physiognomist took out a sandalwood box and opened it. Inside was something that looked like a crystal drop. He wanted to give it to Jin Yang. "Stop him! That's a treasure!" The Fan family members were excited when they saw the item in the box. This was the item that the old physiognomist had taken from the Fan family. Although they didn't know what it was, the other physiognomists saw how excited the Fan family members were and knew it must be something good. Everyone rushed forward. Ning Shu didn't know what it was, but she felt that the energy it was emitting was very comfortable and had a cool feeling. It was probably a treasure that targeted mental power. No wonder Jin Yang's mind was damaged, but he was still full of energy. It seemed that it was the work of this thing. Ning Shu wanted to snatch it, but there were so many people that he couldn't do it. The treasure had already appeared, and it was enough for these physiognomists to go crazy. The old physiognomist was surrounded by so many physiognomists that he couldn't feed it to Jin Yang. Li Guqiu squeezed through the crowd and snatched the item from the old physiognomist's hand. She wanted to feed it to Jin Yang. Ning Shu used his mental power to attack Li Guqiu, knocking her out. The box in her hand fell to the ground. This thing was a bit like mercury. When it fell to the ground, it formed a round shape and rolled softly on the ground. It didn't dissipate. There was a moment of silence, and then all the physiognomists began to fight for it. There wasn't much of it, only the size of a coin. Perhaps it was big, but the old physiognomist had probably used up a lot of it. Ning Shu immediately used the Law of Water's incantation technique to make this thing invisible. Then, she used her mental strength to directly grab this thing from a distance. Ning Shu felt a cool sensation in his hand. It was a bit like jelly. When he touched it, he felt all the fatigue in his body disappear. His whole body trembled and he felt very comfortable. What was this? Ning Shu put away the items and looked at the chaotic scene with a smile, just like the foolish son of a landlord. Where is it? Who took it? Hand it over. Now that the item was gone, everyone looked at the person next to them warily. They all felt that the other party had taken the item. The people of the Fan family were going crazy. They had finally found their family heirloom, but it was gone again. The Fan family looked at the old fortune teller. The item must be in your hands. The old physiognomist looked even worse than the Fan family because the item was not in his hands. Without it, how could he repair Jin Yang's spiritual power? Jin Yang was the perfect disciple that he had created. In the future, he would inherit his legacy. He had been feeding him little by little since he was young. Previously, the supreme treasure was not small. It was the size of a fist. Over the years, he and Jin Yang had consumed only the size of a coin. Now that even the last bit was gone, what would happen to Jin Yang's mental damage? If he didn't fix it, his cultivation wouldn't improve in the future. What was more serious was that he wouldn't be able to use the gravitational curse technique, and he wouldn't be able to use the methods of a physiognomist. Spiritual power was the foundation of a physiognomist. The old fortune teller's body became more and more crooked. His face was covered with a layer of gray. He looked like he had aged a lot. He looked like he was about to die. His eyes stared fiercely at the people present. Since you don't want us to live well, then don't think about living. Without the supreme treasure, Jin Yang had no hope. In the future, Jin Yang might not even be as good as an ordinary person, let alone a stunning physiognomist. If Jin Yang could not be a physiognomist, if Jin Yang could not carry his hopes, then he might as well die. Today, they would drag these hypocrites down with them. These arrogant, bug-like physiognomists would all be destroyed. They enjoyed the respect of others. In fact, these physiognomists were the most disgusting people. As the old fortune teller spoke, he began to use the attracting curse technique. The old fortune teller's body was shrouded in black gas. The surrounding air pressure became lower and lower. It looked like a powerful attracting curse technique. He wanted to die together with everyone present. Everyone was a little panicked. The Fan family shouted, "Hurry up and stop him." Previously, it was this attracting curse technique that allowed him to successfully blow up the Fan family and escape. Now, this attracting curse technique was even more powerful than before. All the physiognomists threw everything they had, including talismans and magic weapons, at the old fortune teller. The old fortune teller spat out blood from the impact of the talismans, but he laughed sinisterly. "All of you must die. You must die together with Jin Yang and me. You destroyed my hope. I want all of you to die." The old fortune teller had high hopes for Jin Yang and spent a lot of effort on him. Now that Jin Yang was destroyed, the old fortune teller was going crazy. These fortune tellers were all sinister and cunning people. They could not bear to see others doing well. When they saw something good, they would destroy it. They were like this to him in the past. Now they were like this to Jin Yang. Was there any meaning for such a rotten world of fortune tellers to exist? There was no meaning at all. They were all destroyed together. Along with the people from the noble families present were also destroyed. It was good to have so many people buried with him. The old fortune teller stared at the sky, his voice hoarse. It's already come to this point. The person hiding in the dark still won't come out to meet me? Hiding in the dark to plot against others? Was he that unpresentable? Ning Shu was speechless. If you ask me to come out, I will come out. Do you think I don't have any face? The old fortune teller waited for a long time. When no one came out, he laughed coldly. The incantation technique had already gathered a lot of lightning. The lightning almost enveloped the old fortune teller's entire body. And this lightning was purple. It was not the normal white or green. The moment the purple lightning appeared, it was as if the heavens were covering the heads of all the fortune tellers. It was as if they were facing a disaster. Ning Shu was a little stunned. This was clearly the heavens' might. It contained the will of the heavens. The fortune teller was so powerful that he could communicate with the heavens. No, that shouldn't be the case. If the fortune teller was so powerful, he wouldn't be like this. Then the heavens wanted to destroy these fortune tellers. Even if they couldn't, They wanted to temporarily cut off their inheritance. So the heavens wanted to destroy these fortune tellers. Ning Shu was puzzled. This was clearly an ordinary world. How could the fortune tellers of this world be able to communicate with the laws of heaven and earth? It was clearly beyond the power system of this world. At this moment, Ning Shu understood a little. This was beyond the system. Now the heavens wanted to destroy these fortune tellers. Chapter 33-39. The inheritance of the physiognomy masters would be broken. Even if he didn't die, he would make these physiognomy masters unable to use their powers. Because the difference in power between these physiognomy masters and ordinary people was too great. In other words, the glory of the physiognomy masters would be gone. What feng shui? The old physiognomy master's power was getting stronger and stronger. It was like a huge mountain was pressing down on everyone. The faces of the physiognomy masters were filled with fear. They felt like a disaster was coming. Their whole body was trembling. They wanted to run away, they wanted to shout, but they couldn't make a sound. In front of the heavenly might, people were as small as ants. They had no power to resist. The old physiognomy master's face was filled with surprise and doubt. Obviously, he didn't think that the thing he made would be so powerful. Naturally, he used his last bit of strength to attract the greatest power of the curse. Ning Shu immediately restrained his aura and disguised himself as an ordinary person. If there was any fluctuation of aura, it would be locked by the heavenly might. Then the power would descend on him. However, in the records of the heavenly Tao, he should be a person who was born into a rich family. Other than that, he should be a useless person. Sure enough, even the heavens can't stand hypocrites like you and want to destroy you? As the caster of the curse, the old physiognomy master felt the heavenly might more than anyone else. He would leave a thick and colorful stroke in the history of physiognomy masters. He would end the world of physiognomy masters. Thunderbolts rumbled down like raindrops, falling down in bunches. None of the physiognomists present fell. Even some of the ordinary people suffered from the calamity. Ning Shu pulled Father Zhang far away. Looking at such a spectacular scene, he really didn't know what to say. However, Jin Yang's situation was getting worse. His spirit was already attacked by Ning Shu. Now that he was hit by the thunder, he was probably really crippled. As the caster of the curse, the old physiognomy master's injury was also very serious. His whole body was charred black. He fell to the ground like charcoal. It happened in a very short time. Everyone only felt a blur in front of their eyes. Then, as if their bodies had exploded, they lost consciousness. They all fell to the ground. Ning Shu patted his chest. As an ordinary person, he was still very afraid of thunder, especially the purple lightning. How painful would it be to be electrocuted? The ambulance arrived and the unconscious physiognomist was sent to the ambulance. This was really a rare piece of news. With a pale face, Ning Shu said to Mr. Zhang, "Daddy, let's go. It's too scary." Old man Zhang was also a little confused. He quickly nodded and said, "Let's go, let's go." It was best not to get involved in the matters of the world of physiognomy. To be struck by lightning in broad daylight, was the world of physiognomy really that powerful? Hopefully, the old physiognomist would not come back to life. With such a powerful force, if he went to the Zhang clan to cause trouble, the Zhang clan would be razed to the ground. A physiognomist was truly amazing. He was completely superhuman, a scion. Liguchio was still in a daze, as if she had lost her soul. Ning Shu said to her, "Miss Li, are you not leaving?" Liguchio stared blankly and her eyes were filled with tears. Looking at the hurried footsteps around her, she felt as if her soul had left her body and was looking at these people. What happened? Liguchio muttered to herself. Ning Shu said, "Your Jinyang was struck by lightning. You should go to the hospital." All the physiognomists present were sent to the hospital. Those who came to watch the show and those who came to participate in the competition were all in trouble. Some of the physiognomists who did not come actually had average abilities. They were not qualified to watch such a scene. Even if they were not struck by lightning, Their abilities were probably limited. Only then did Li Guqiu come to her senses. She ran while wiping her tears. The Zhuang family's house was charred black and there was even a fire. The Zhuang family's house was a garden and was surrounded by forests. When the fire spread, it became a forest fire. A grand event in the world of physiognomy had turned into such a situation. If word got out, it would be a joke. When old man Zhang returned home, he paid close attention to this matter. In the hospital, some of the physiognomists slowly woke up after treatment. Some of the more serious ones were still unconscious. The stronger the physiognomist, the later they woke up. When they woke up, they were in a daze. Either their memories were damaged or their minds were damaged. Previously, they could still use the guiding curse technique. Now, they could not even use it. The lightning forcefully destroyed the physiognomists' minds. It could also be that the lightning suppressed their minds, making them unable to communicate with the energy of heaven and earth and use the laws of heaven and earth. The most seriously injured ones were the old physiognomist and Jin Yang. The old physiognomist's meridians were all damaged. Jin Yang had not woken up yet. The doctor said that he might not wake up and become a vegetable. A living dead. When Li Guqiu heard this, she fell to the ground and covered her face, crying silently. Why was her life so bitter? What was wrong with her pursuing her own goals? What did she do wrong? Why did the heavens treat her like this? If the heavens gave her the fate of marrying a man she did not love, she wanted to go against the heavens. She wanted to fight for it. What was wrong with her? Moreover, the medical fees for the old physiognomist and Jin Yang were also very expensive. It was thousands of yuan a day. For Li Guqiu, who had no income, this was a huge burden. Moreover, she did not know Jin Yang's bank card password. What could she do? Li Guqiu had no choice but to go back to the Li family. In fact, the Li family was already badly battered. Previously, when Jin Yang was in the limelight, they quickly expanded their business territory. They offended a lot of people. Now, the news of the physiognomist world had spread to every rich family. Those who had a little source of information knew that Jin Yang might not wake up. And even if he woke up, he might be a cripple. Because now, all the physiognomists who woke up said that they had lost their ability. When they used the guiding curse technique, their heads hurt and felt empty. The physiognomists who cultivated hard could not accept it. One by one, they wailed like ghosts and howled like wolves. This made the hospital want to send this group of people to a mental hospital. The Li family was now tearing down the east wall to pay the west wall. They had been hollowed out. Now, they still had to pay for Jin Yang's medical fees. How could they? Wasn't it Jin Yang's fault that the Li family was in this state? This daughter was stupid. The Li family was already in this state, but she did not think for the Li family. Now, she actually wanted to pay for Jin Yang's medical fees. Li Guqiu was numb to her cold and heartless father, but the Li family was so heartless that they burned the bridge after crossing the river. Li Guqiu was dumbfounded. How can you be like this? If it were not for Jin Yang, how could your business be so prosperous before? Not to mention that they had taken advantage of the situation. Now that they were unlucky, they cut ties and supported each other. Wasn't it good? Chapter 3340. It would be strange if such a family could live well. They had no persistence or integrity at all. Then who is it now? Jin Yang has offended so many people, and now they are taking revenge on the Li family. The Li family was implicated by Jin Yang. Li Guqiu's father said angrily, "By the way, don't interact with Jin Yang anymore." Li Guqiu's father looked at his daughter's beautiful face. "By the way, doesn't Zhang Tianbao like you? Go and find him." "Dad, how can I have the face to find Zhang Tianbao now?" Li Guqiu looked at her father as if he were a monster. Just how shameless did he have to be to say something like that? "What's the matter, as long as Zhang Tianbao still likes you?" "Like me? Why do you think he must still like me? What do I have to deserve his love now?" "You are beautiful. Go to the Zhang family, and I will pay the medical fees for Jin Yang and the others." Li Guqiu's father had no choice. Even if his face was hot, he had no choice. Li Guqiu looked at her father in despair. "What if I don't go? What had happened during this period of time? Why did Li Guqiu feel like she was in a dream? Her self-esteem had been trampled to the ground. If you don't go, then forget it. Li Guqiu took a deep breath. I will go, but I can't guarantee the result. Okay, go. Ning Shu was studying the treasure mentioned by the old physiognomist when he heard the servant say that Li Guqiu was looking for him. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows and asked the system to put this thing in the system space. When the mission was over, he would go back and study it. Ning Shu went downstairs and saw Li Guqiu sitting on the sofa uneasily. Her back was straight and her hands were tightly clasped together. Her previous elegance and calmness were gone. Now, Li Guqiu was surrounded by sadness. In the past, Li Guqiu was a literary and artistic melancholy. Now, Li Guqiu's worries were the sadness and despair of being surrounded by mundane life. Seeing Ning Shu come, Li Guqiu almost bounced up from the sofa and stood up. Ning Shu sat down. Relax. Why are you looking for me? I. Li Guqiu couldn't open her mouth. Shame filled her heart. It's all right. I'm leaving. Li Guqiu turned around and ran. As a result, her knee hit the coffee table. It was very painful. Li Guqiu frowned. Ning Shu gently asked, Are you okay? Li Guqiu shook her head like a rattledrum. It's okay, it's okay. After saying that, she endured the pain and left. Ning Shu looked at Li Guqiu's back and understood why Li Guqiu had come here. It seemed that she was not willing and was forced to come. Li Guqiu was very noble in her bones. She looked down on Adu's things. But she lowered her head for a little money. She probably felt terrible in her heart. Let's just suffer like this. There was no need to do anything to Li Guqiu. Li Guqiu's self-torture was enough to make her suffer. This quest should be about done. Ning Shu went to the hospital to check on Jin Yang's condition. Jin Yang's spirit ball was full of cracks. Even if he woke up, he couldn't use the curse technique. The methods of a physiognomist couldn't be used. As for the old physiognomist, he was directly crippled. In addition, he was old. He was just passing time. There was nothing to fear. I saw Li Guqiu leave just now. What was she doing here? Father Zhang came in with his bag. Are you still bewitched by Li Guqiu? Son, we can't afford to offend a girl like that. For your safety, I've decided to find you a girl who isn't so outstanding in the future. It's a treasure to have an ugly daughter-in-law at home. Ning Shu was speechless. Once bitten, twice shy. Let me tell you, don't interact with her in the future. Father Zhang warned Ning Shu. Ning Shu asked, the Li family asked her to come. She only said a few words and left. The Li family's current situation isn't good. The Li family came to visit so shamelessly. They used Li Guqiu to see if she had any improper thoughts about Li Guqiu. If she had any improper thoughts, it would be best. They could do the same thing again. How good is the Li family situation? They spat out everything they took before, and it's double. The Li family will definitely be in a terrible situation. Our Zhang family hasn't done anything yet. The debt between the Li family and our Zhang family has been settled. There's no need to add insult to injury at this time. Father Zhang said and pointed at Ning Shu. I'm warning you. If I find out that you're hooking up with Li Guqiu, I'll really cripple you. Do you know how much the Zhang family has suffered this time? Ning Shu spread his hands and said, I know. I'm scared too, okay? The current situation was definitely much better than the plot. The Zhang family situation in the plot was really tragic. The family was broken, and the people were either dead or disabled. They went bankrupt, and their ancestral tombs were tampered with, leaving a legacy for their descendants. At least the Zhang family was still there. Although they had suffered a great loss, they could still slowly develop if given some time. Besides, it was impossible to deal with Jin Yang without paying a price. Li Guqiu came out of the Zhang family, but she didn't go back to the Li family. Instead, she went to the hospital. The nurse happened to see Li Guqiu and said, the two patients are going to pay now. Pay the fee. Li Guqiu didn't have money with her. Her face was red and she said to the nurse, I don't have money with me. I'll pay later. Well, you have to hurry, or you'll have to stop taking medicine, said the nurse. Liguccio ran away from the hospital in a hurry and squatted on the side of the road crying. She didn't expect that one day she would be so embarrassed because of money. Money made her run away like a deserter. She didn't even dare to go to the ward to see Jin Yang. But what could she do? She had no strength at all. Without money, she couldn't do anything. Money was the cornerstone of a person. Of course, a person who didn't even have money couldn't have a good future. Liguccio thought of throwing all the branded jewelry and clothes into the trash can before. She wanted to smash her own head. She shouldn't have let Jin Yang spend so much money to buy some jewelry, and she threw it away. How much money was that? Liguccio felt that she had become tacky now. She always thought about money. She had changed beyond recognition. She had become completely different. Liguccio ran home and asked the servant where the things in the trash can were. They were all diamonds, jade, and gems. The servant said that the old man had put away all these things. Liguccio went to find the old man again. Recently, the old man's hair was all white because he was worried about the Li family. When he saw Liguccio, he didn't show a kind smile. "Grandpa, where are the things I threw away before?" Liguccio asked anxiously. If she sold them, she could pay for the medical expenses. Chapter 3341. Liguccio had no idea how much money Jin Yang had. She felt that being with a person was not about how much money he had. If she wanted money, she would have been with Zhang Tianbao. Moreover, with Jin Yang's abilities, it was very easy for him to make money. Moreover, it was others who brought money to his door for him to do things. Liguccio did not know where he kept his money. Even if he had a bank card, she did not know the password. She could not let the hospitals stop Jin Yang's medicine. Liguccio did not believe that someone as powerful as Jin Yang would become a vegetable. She did not believe it. She did not believe it at all. Until now, Liguccio felt that she did not know Jin Yang that well. At least, Jin Yang did not share much information with her. There were many things that Jin Yang did not tell her. Old man Li said, "Didn't you say you don't want it? I'll sell it. The Li family is in trouble now, so you have to understand." Liguccio's strength was sucked away. She sat on the ground softly. She sneered and turned to leave. Liguccio felt that she was a failure in her life. Even she did not know why she was such a failure. She did not dare to go to the hospital. She did not dare to face the sleeping Jin Yang. Jin Yang's vitality was tenacious. After sleeping for a while, he woke up. However, Jin Yang had lost the ability of a physiognomist. Jin Yang could not accept it. The thing that he had been in contact with since he was young was now taken away. Every time Jin Yang used his ability, his head felt like it was going to explode. It felt like there was a needle in his brain. Liguccio cried and hugged Jin Yang. She told him not to torture himself. If he could not use his ability, then he should not use it. Jin Yang roared, "What do you know? Physiognomy is my life. Without it, there is no meaning for me to exist." This was what he relied on to survive. Without it, how could he survive? The thing that he had been in contact with since he was young, the thing that merged with his blood, was suddenly taken away. No one could understand how he felt. Jin Yang was as weak as a child. He did not have the confidence that Liguccio had seen before. He was so weak. Something in Liguccio's heart broke. She suddenly felt lost. Her choice was wrong again. The system, mission completed. Do you want to leave the mission world now? Ning Shu, yes. She had stayed in this world long enough. From the beginning to the end, she was a spoiled brat. Perfect. No one knew what she had done behind the scenes. Moreover, after the person who had entrusted her with the task returned, he was a true hedonistic son of a wealthy family, a wastrel. There were no flaws. Ning Shu felt that even if he had learned the priming curse technique, he would have to be cautious when using it in the future. These physiognomists were a good example. If it exceeded the power system of this world, the heavenly Tao of this world would go crazy. It was fine to use it occasionally, but it couldn't be used too often. As for a world without suppression, she could directly use the precepts. There was no need to go through the trouble of using the incantation technique. Ning Shu returned to the system space and directly absorbed the soul power. Ning Shu still had a lot of soul force. Soul force that hadn't been purified had impurities. Ning Shu had to remove these impurities and compress them in his dantian. The purified soul energy fused into the soul. He felt that his soul had become slightly stronger. Ning Shu opened the attribute panel. Name, Ning Shu. Age, 27 level, Super Mission Taker Points card, 257 plus 10 million points per card. Soul value, 34 plus 1 HP, 31 plus 1 Wisdom, 42 plus 1 Luck, 28 plus 1 Charm, 18 plus 1 Spiritual Power, 43 plus 1 Force, 30 plus 1 Aptitude, 37 plus 1 Faith, 25, 000 Merit, 0 Soul Strength, 5 Authorization Ticket, 0 Pure Heart, none Precepts, none Constructed World, Reincarnation World Tools, Calm Aura, Calming Pill, Amulet 4, Upgraded Amulet plus 2, Faith Bell Honorary Titles, Goddess of War, Selfless Ancestor Skills, 5th Ring Shooting Technique, Intermediate Fighting Technique, Intermediate Level Poison Technique, Beginner Level. Business Management Knowledge, Beginner Level Code Programming, Beginner Level Lawyer Skill, Sage Ghost Catching Skill, Beginner Level Cooking Skill, Intermediate Level Embroidery Skill, Trash Hypnosis Aura, Mother of the World, Queen's Blessing, Sister Model Worker, Chen Shi's Blessing, Leader Aura, Grass Blessing, Best Friend for Life, Meow Meow Meow's Blessing, Life-Saving Hand, Zhu Susu's Blessing, Founding Woman, Chen Ermiai's Blessing, Beauty-in-Law, Chen Ning's Blessing, Bane of the Blood Clan, Jasmine's Blessing, Transcending Race Communication, by Sanyang's Blessing, Brave Heart, Wang Ying's Blessing, Bloodthirsty Tyrant, and I Bingyan's Blessing, Heart of Peace and Joy, Luck Aura, Faith Aura, Longevity. Completed the client's mission. Mission completion rate, 100%. Received 10 points card, 8 attribute points, and 60% of the Soul Force client's soul power. 60% of the soul force? Ning Shu felt that Zhang Tianbao was probably really a prodigal, giving her 60% of his soul force. He was used to being generous, giving when he was happy. His happiness could not be bought with money. No matter what, as long as the client was satisfied, she was the one who took advantage. After all, she received 60% of the soul force of a complete soul. No wonder she felt more soul force this time. Ning Shu took out a fruit and nibbled on it. She had a lot of snacks recently. Li Wen had given her a lot of good stuff. She could feel that it was good for her soul after eating it. With a snack in one hand and a kidney-strengthening fruit in the other, she was living like a god. The system said, "Let me tell you some bad news. The organization has decided to attack the destroyer?" Ning Shu replied with an "oh," and asked casually, "Who's the destroyer?" She had never heard of this name before. Was it someone like the Prime Minister? The destroyer. Interesting. The system said, "It's the worm you're talking about." Ning Shu almost choked to death and asked, "How did you know?" The news that the system knew made Ning Shu a little surprised. Was Egg White so well informed? The system said. "The main system told me and asked you to prepare. You'll be going to war with the army." Ning Shu was speechless. Can I refuse? Ning Shu was not in the mood to eat snacks now. She scratched her head and asked, "Didn't you say it wasn't a definite attack? Why are you so sure now?" She had just returned from a mission. Why did it feel like something big had happened? The world had turned upside down. Dan Qing said, "This is the organization's decision." "I'm not sure." Ning Shu felt a headache coming on. She went straight to the void, ready to find Li Wen. He wanted to let Li Wen be prepared. Would she be on Li Wen's side or the organization's side? This was a matter of position. There was no right or wrong. Chapter 3342. Seeing that Ning Shu was looking for bugs, the system couldn't help but speak up. "Dan Qing, what are you doing? You're not going to leak military information, are you?" "Ning Shu, forget it. How could I leak military information?" Back then, Senior Uncle had already sent a letter of challenge and decided to fight. Ning Shu strolled in the void, not knowing which direction to look for bugs. These bugs were really hard to find. Moreover, Ning Shu had a guess in her heart. Senior Uncle wanted to fight insects, but not everyone in the organization wanted to do so. She had to run as far as she could to inform the other party. It would be best if they didn't fight. The organization might not be able to afford it. At least, Ning Shu felt that the silver-haired man didn't support this war. Otherwise, the main system wouldn't have told her system, and then the system leaked this information to her. Okay, she always seemed to be used as a gun. But even if it was for Li Wen, she still had to be this gun. Ning Shu looked at the vast void, a little speechless. Where should she go? How did the creatures in the void distinguish directions? Anyway, Ning Shu couldn't distinguish directions in the void. She felt that all directions were the same. Ning Shu closed her eyes and chose a direction. This was the time to challenge her fate with Li Wen. If they were fated, they would meet. If they weren't, they wouldn't meet. Ning Shu chose a direction and jumped in that direction. It seemed that she had some fate with Li Wen. After jumping for a short while, Ning Shu saw a dark mass of things in the distance. Needless to say, it was bugs. Ning Shu cursed in her heart. These bugs were clearly heading toward the plane. It seemed that Little Mouse really planned to go to the plane. The other side also had the same idea and then catch a turtle in a jar. Ning Shu hurried over. In order to avoid being eaten by bugs, she immediately shouted, "Brother!" But with a loud snap of his fingers, the bugs parted and made a path for him. Ning Shu was a little surprised. When did the little mouse become so polite to her and even let the insects line up to welcome her? What was the little mouse trying to do? Ning Shu was vigilant. He flew over and stepped on the deck, walking into the cabin. Many pairs of eyes stared at Ning Shu. Little Mouse sat on a chair full of gems and stared at Ning Shu with an unfriendly gaze. Ning Shu asked, "Where's my brother?" Little Mouse, "Where's Li Wen?" Ning Shu and Little Mouse asked in unison. Ning Shu, "If you ask me, Li Wen, isn't Li Wen inseparable from you?" Little Mouse looked at Ning Shu. "Didn't Li Wen come to you?" Ning Shu shook his head. "No, I came to him for something." "Did you lose my brother?" Ning Shu did not expect that Li Wen was not with Little Mouse. Where did Li Wen go? Did something happen to Li Wen? Little Mouse saw that Ning Shu did not seem to be lying. He pursed his lips and looked like he was about to cry. Ning Shu asked, "Did something happen? Did you guys fight?" Li Wen got angry and left? Little Mouse was stubborn. "How would I know that he's so petty? I just didn't listen to him and ran away. He has no loyalty at all." "Because of the invasion of the realm?" Little Mouse said angrily, "I just wanted to fight. He came to provoke us. Should I do nothing?" Then he left. Ning Shu felt his head hurt. He really left just like that? Little Mouse lost his confidence. "I lost my temper with him. I was a little confused and he left. I hate him. Can't we talk nicely?" Ning Shu felt that things were not that simple for Li Wen to leave in a fit of anger. Li Wen was not an emotional person. As an emperor, he had to be introverted and unfathomable in order to be qualified. Did Li Wen want to scare Little Mouse? But if Li Wen left, where could he go? It was very dangerous in the void. Little Mouse, Ning Shu asked, "He didn't look for you?" Ning Shu looked at Little Mouse expressionlessly. "If I saw my brother, why would I look for you?" Little Mouse said, "Then Li Wen must have gone back to the realm. I'll look for him." Ning Shu, "Oh my God, the Zergs are really going to the realm and the organization is planning to attack these Zergs. This is just right." The two sides bumped into each other. What a coincidence. Ning Shu narrowed her eyes and thought for a moment. She didn't know if Li Wen did this because he wanted the two sides to fight. That was why he did this. Li Wen must have known that Little Mouse would look for her. She really couldn't understand what Li Wen was thinking. He was indeed an emperor. He was so unpredictable. Ning Shu felt stifled. Ning Shu said, "Our organization is planning to attack you. If you go directly like this, you'll definitely be a sheep in a tiger's mouth." "What tiger or what sheep? I don't understand. I just want to know where Li Wen went." Little Mouse said indifferently. Ning Shu, "This idiot. If you're stupid, you should read more books. How can you not understand? Ning Shu explained, it's just that they plan to destroy you directly. You should run for your life now. You can understand it this way. Little mouse, I'm going to look for Li Wen. Ning Shu felt a headache coming on. You don't even know where he is. Where are you going to find him? It's because I don't know that I have to look everywhere. His previous realm is the most likely, Little Mouse said. Ning Shu couldn't control him. She wasn't Li Wen. Little Mouse only listened to Li Wen and said directly, up to you. If they really fought, they could only fight. The skeletons now probably had the power to fight. After raising them for so long, they could finally be released. The more they fought, the braver they became. In the future, these skeletons would follow her to travel the void. Ning Shu originally came to look for Li Wen to try to avoid this war. War didn't benefit her at all. Her soul power was so weak now, she would easily be at a disadvantage on the battlefield. And once a war broke out, she would definitely be used as a soldier. Maybe it would be good for the organization, but it wouldn't benefit her at all. Even if there was a reward after the war, it would be nothing more than something like merit. Ning Shu had all these things. She didn't need to risk her life at all. But since she was in the organization, she couldn't not do it. Since she was in the organization, she had to be restrained. If the organization was in danger, she had to go. So it was best if there was no war. Little Rat was an idiot. Li Wen was not here right now. If he rushed over with a large group of insects, he would probably be defeated. Before, it was just a small fight, but now that the organization was serious, these insects were going to be in trouble. But the insects didn't listen to her at all. They insisted on looking for Li Wen. She couldn't do anything about it. Chapter 33-43. With Li Wen around, he could at least give some advice. But these insects only knew how to plot and scheme. However, these insects were strong enough and didn't need wisdom at all. They just went up and fought. Ning Shu really didn't expect that such a mature and stable person like Li Wen would run away from home one day. Looking at the little mouse, it must have done something to Li Wen that angered the heavens and the people. Ning Shu suddenly thought of something and asked him, did you do something excessive to Li Wen, such as kissing, or something like that? This mouse was eyeing her royal brother covetously. It was completely possible for him to do such a thing. Little Mouse looked at Ning Shu in confusion. What are you talking about? I don't understand. Ning Shu touched his index finger. It's mating. It was straightforward enough. No, Li Wen told him that these insects reproduced asexually. Then there was no kissing in their instinct. Looking at the pure eyes of the mouse, Ning Shu felt that he had led a child astray. Ning Shu waved his hand and said, it's nothing, I'm leaving. You'd better not go there. I think Li Wen will be back soon. If you go there, it's very likely that you will be wiped out. Forget it, you can do whatever you want. This race was his, so he could do whatever he wanted with it. Little Mouse saw that Ning Shu was about to leave and immediately asked, you're leaving just like that? Ning Shu looked at him. What else? Was she going to stay to eat and drink? She was afraid that these insects would eat her. Aren't you going to stay with me to look for Li Wen? If you need anything, call Li Wen your royal brother. Now that Li Wen is gone, you're actually indifferent. You're not even following me to look for him. You're really heartless. Ning Shu was speechless. Why did he suddenly become a heartless person? There were many things to do. And with Li Wen's brain, Ning Shu always felt that he wasn't the kind of person who would run away from home in a fit of anger. Most likely he had some plans. He was afraid that he would encounter some danger in the void. Ning Shu said, he shouldn't be in danger. Little Mouse said bluntly, you're not him. How do you know he's fine? He'll send you things for no reason. Now that he's lost contact with you, you don't seem to be worried. You're really right, heartless? Ning Shu, even if I'm cruel and unscrupulous, Li Wen should be the one who has the right to criticize me. What right do you have to criticize me? I'm leaving. She had a friendship with Li Wen, but that didn't mean that she had a friendship with these rats. When the time came, she wouldn't have to be polite at all. Moreover, Li Wen also said that when the time came, she wouldn't have to be polite at all. Ning Shu returned to the system space and took out the items that he had obtained in the previous world. He pinched the soft object, which was only the size of a silver coin. How was he going to use it? Should he just eat it? However, it was really comfortable to hold in his hand. The cool feeling was like holding an ice pack in his hand in summer. It was too comfortable. Even if he didn't eat it, it would still be nice to hold it in his hand. It probably wouldn't be of much use if he ate it. Since it was used for mental strength, should he just put it in his sea of consciousness? If he had known, he would have waited and asked the Fan family what this thing was for. However, it would be easy to expose himself if he asked. He could slowly study this thing himself. Ning Shu thought about it and put this thing in his sea of consciousness. As soon as this thing entered his sea of consciousness, there was a cool feeling. As soon as it entered his sea of consciousness, this thing directly melted and disappeared without a trace. Ning Shu still didn't know what this thing was, but it was good for mental strength. Her mental strength hadn't taken shape yet. It was probably because she was lacking some opportunity. Ning Shu yawned. He was a little sleepy, so he lay down on the sofa and slept. Ning Shu had now entered a very mysterious state. The mental strength in his mind was like a world that was changing at a very fast speed. Mountains, rivers, and earth were forming at the fastest speed. Then they were annihilated. Finally, with a bang, they exploded, forming stars that twinkled in his sea of consciousness. Ning Shu sat up straight and rubbed his head. Her mental strength had taken shape. It was the countless stars hanging in his sea of consciousness. These stars were as small as the diamonds on a diamond ring, but they contained endless mental strength. Moreover, there were so many of them. If the mental strength contained in a star was used up, then the star would disappear. At the same time, the mental strength would slowly condense again. As time passed, there would be more and more stars. Ning Shu smiled. It was great. It had finally taken shape. He had waited until now. Ning Shu was satisfied with this result. This way, his mental strength wouldn't be used up. This thing was good stuff. He had to get more of it in the future. Just a little bit was enough to let her mental strength take shape. Perhaps it wasn't that useful. Perhaps her mental strength was about to take shape. With this thing, her mental strength would take shape in advance. Dan Qing said, "The main system wants you to deal with the star stones." Ning Shu nodded. Got it. After dealing with it, he immediately used it to do missions. Even if there was a war, he couldn't drag her out of the world and let her go to the battlefield while doing missions. Because his mental strength had taken shape, Ning Shu used his mental strength more smoothly. There was almost no feeling of stagnation. When he used the space law, he didn't feel tired either. He had improved another step. This was the good thing about doing missions. He could get soul power. Maybe he could even find some treasures. Ning Shu went to the damaged area of the plane and changed shifts with Grand Elder. Grand Uncle Ning Shu said, "When the time comes for a fight, will you deal with the star stones in the organization and stabilize the rear or go to the battlefield?" Ning Shu quickly said, "I'm willing to deal with the star stones and stabilize the rear of the organization. I guarantee that you won't have to worry about the rear when you fight." Grand Uncle thought for a moment and said, "You're still suitable for the battlefield. Your immortal physique is more useful on the battlefield." Ning Shu said, "You've already decided. Why are you still asking me?" For a moment, Ning Shu thought that he didn't have to go to the battlefield. It was bad to love peace. Why did they have to fight? What was the benefit of fighting? There were probably benefits, but it wasn't good for her. Grand Uncle said, "If you don't ask, it'll seem like the organization is monopolizing and domineering. If you ask, it'll seem like you have human rights." Ning Shu said, "The result is the same. It doesn't matter." Moreover, this form wasn't careful at all and was very annoying. What was the use of formality? The result was the same. It was a waste of expression. Ning Shu started to deal with the star stones, and Grand Uncle left. As soon as Grand Uncle left, someone came up. It was the person who had invited Ning Shu to join the faction last time. He said, "Have you considered it?" She had never considered joining this faction. Chapter 3344. This man was only taking her into his faction. He didn't know anything about the faction. Was she going to practice with this man alone in the future? It was like an underground meeting. Was there a need to be so mysterious? If she didn't know anything, there was no need for her to join the faction. Moreover, his sincerity was not as good as Greedy Wolfstar's. At least Greedy Wolfstar told her what the faction's purpose was. Although it was an organization that was full of tricks, she had a clear understanding of Greedy Wolfstar's faction. She was very confused about this man's faction. He didn't reveal any useful information for her to understand the faction. Ning Shu wouldn't give herself to a faction that she didn't know anything about. Ning Shu smiled and said, "Sorry, I might not be able to join the faction. Actually, I've already joined another faction." The man frowned and asked, "What faction did you join?" Ning Shu shook her head. I can't say. "Okay, I won't force you," the man could only say regretfully. He wasn't angry. Obviously, for him, if he could recruit Ning Shu, it would be a gain. If he couldn't, he wouldn't lose anything. Ning Shu wasn't at the point where he had to recruit her. Since Ning Shu had already joined another faction, the man didn't bother Ning Shu anymore. On the other hand, Ning Shu looked at the Great Gate Star, who was picking up fragments. She didn't know if it was an illusion, but Ning Shu felt that she would always meet the Great Gate Star. The Great Gate Star felt Ning Shu's gaze and turned to look at her. The Great Gate Star's expression was not very good. He lowered his head and started picking up fragments. Ning Shu smiled slightly. Now, this faction seemed to only have the Great Gate Star. To be precise, she only knew about the Great Gate Star. She didn't know about anyone else. Maybe the big boss picking up fragments next to her was a member of the faction. It was that mysterious. To be honest, Ning Shu was a little itchy now. Her spiritual power had taken shape. She didn't know how terrifying her maximum output of spiritual power was. She had to find someone to test it out. Moreover, there was soul poison in his body. If he sprinkled a few drops, it would disgust others. However, the Great Gate Star completely ignored Ning Shu's provocative gaze. It didn't even approach Ning Shu. It seemed that he intended to avoid Ning Shu's sharp edge. This made Ning Shu a little disappointed. Was this faction not going to make a move? Were they going to wait until the war started? Ning Shu looked at the Ravenous Wolf Star. As a Ravenous Wolf Star who also carried a star fate, Ning Shu always felt that the Ravenous Wolf Star definitely knew a lot of gossip. Ever since she disgusted the Greedy Wolf Star last time, the Greedy Wolf Star had never pulled her into a faction again. She wondered if the Greedy Wolf Star had developed a new faction after so long. Seeing that he was all alone, he probably hadn't found anyone to join his faction. Thinking about it, he was really pitiful. Ning Shu's Greedy Wolf Star shouted, "Greedy Wolf Star, come here, I have something to tell you." The Greedy Wolf Star looked at Ning Shu vigilantly. Ning Shu waved at him, "Come here, I have something to ask you." The Greedy Wolf Star hesitated for a moment, dragged the bag over and asked, "What do you want to do?" Ning Shu raised his eyebrows and asked, "Why are you so afraid of me now? What can I do to you in public?" The Greedy Wolf Star sneered, "I'm not afraid of you." Ning Shu didn't bother about whether he was afraid or not. He looked at the Great Gate Star and asked the Greedy Wolf Star, "Do you know which faction the Great Gate Star belongs to? Is there anyone else in the faction?" The Greedy Wolf Star shook his head and said, "I don't know, don't ask me." Ning Shu, do you really not know, or are you pretending not to know? You even know that your uncle is a fetish, but you don't know which faction the Great Gate Star belongs to? The Greedy Wolf Star snorted, "What kind of faction are they? They won't announce it with great fanfare. Although we have the star fate, it doesn't mean that we are one. We are also free people. We can only borrow the power of the stars. Don't ask me. Even if I know, I won't tell you. Although I don't like the Great Gate Star, my relationship with him is a little better than with you." Ning Shu narrowed his eyes and suddenly said, "By the way, I forgot one thing. That is, you once fanned the Law Incarnation to deal with me. Now that I think about it, I should know more about it." The Greedy Wolf Star, "Oh, as you wish, I'll wait for you. But are you sure you want to make a move at this time? The atmosphere in the organization is very tense now." There's going to be a war soon. If you are still fighting internally, even if you have some capital, how do you think the organization will treat you? Miss, you are still very inexperienced. When it comes to taking advantage of loopholes, you can't compare to us veterans. Ning Shu accepted humbly, I am working hard to learn. The greedy wolf star took the bag and went elsewhere to pick up the fragments. Ning Shu's hands kept processing the star stones. He was thinking in his heart. The greedy wolf star was right. Now was a special time. If he made a scene at this time, the organization would definitely explode. So many people knew that there was going to be a war, then this war was bound to be won. The worst thing was that the little mouse was rushing here with a large army. They knew that they were looking for Li Wen, but those who didn't know would think that they were provoking her. They were doing it on purpose. Even if there was something, they would have to wait until after the war. Moreover, during the war, the battlefield had no eyes. Who knew what would happen? At that time, it would be a good opportunity to resolve personal grievances. It was just unknown if anyone would make a move against her. Ning Shu. Awan stood in front of Ning Shu with a bag. Ning Shu saw the beautiful Awan, smiled and said, Why are you looking for me? Awan asked Ning Shu, How can I deal with the star stones? Awan asked very sincerely. Ning Shu was very happy. It was rare for someone to take the initiative to deal with the star stones. How similar was it to him in the past? In order to have a little star stone to hold the law of nothingness, he walked on such a path of no return. Now, he was going to pull Awan on this path of no return. It was rare for Awan to have such awareness. Ordinary people were not willing to take out the star stones because the star stones were harmful to the soul. This kind of damage would damage the soul. It was equivalent to radiation. Which part of the body could withstand the damage of radiation? Ning Shu asked, Is the law you comprehended strong? As long as one's comprehension was strong, it would be easier to take out the star stones. If one's comprehension was average, it was very likely that they would not be able to handle the star stones. Since the star stones could connect to the plane, then the star stones contained a lot of energy. In other words, it would be easier to deal with the star stones after she died once. Previously, it was a little difficult to deal with the life law. Of course, it could also be that her comprehension of the law was not deep enough. If Awan could handle the star stones, if there was anything important in the future that needed to be changed, he might be able to find Awan to replace him. Chapter 3346. After raising skeletons for so long, he would definitely see the results of the training. But he didn't know how many skeletons would be sacrificed. Ning Shu asked, Have you eaten all the merit points I gave you before? With enough merit points, these skeletons could be made into golden bodies of merit without any weakness. At this time, Ning Shu was no longer reluctant to give up the merit points. He hoped that all the skeletons would be alive on the battlefield by then. Ning Shu couldn't guarantee whether he could survive. After all, it was very likely that he would die on the battlefield. They've all been eaten. Now many skeletons have completely formed golden bodies of merit. Ning Shu frowned. A lot of skeletons. Does that mean that some of them haven't formed golden bodies of merit? Some skeletons are weaker so they get less merit points. Then their speed slows down. Zhu Jun said to Ning Shu. Ning Shu said, I still have merit grains here. I'll make all the skeletons into golden bodies of merit. They'll be on the battlefield soon. Zhu Jun said, There's no need to rush. Golden bodies of merit can't be formed in a short time. In fact, it needs to be comprehended. Is there such a situation? It needs to be comprehended? Ning Shu thought that it would be enough to feed a large number of merit grains. Zhu Jun shook her head. It's not that simple. I don't think you need to send all the skeletons to the battlefield. Just bring the skeletons that have formed golden bodies of merit. If these skeletons haven't formed golden bodies of merit, they will be killed on the battlefield. It's better not to go. Give these skeletons time to grow. They will die in vain. It's useless to waste them, Zhu Jun said calmly. Ning Shu felt that Zhu Jun's words made sense. Moreover, if they were not strong enough, they would be courting death. Moreover, These skeletons were made by her with great effort. If they were consumed, she would be the one who would feel distressed. Ordinary skeletons were probably more powerful than some law incarnations. Ning Shu said, "Then gather the skeletons that have formed golden bodies of merit." By the way, have you collected any soul power recently? Ning Shu asked. There were some wandering souls in the world of samsara who had lost their minds. She directly absorbed these souls. Zhu Jun took out a transparent bottle. Inside the bottle was a gray liquid. This liquid was soul power. Zhu Jun said, "These are the souls that we've collected recently. That's all we have. We haven't touched the souls with spiritual intelligence. It's only natural that it didn't move." A soul with sentience was a living being, while a soul without sentience was just a mass of energy. Ning Shu directly absorbed the soul power and removed the impurities. His soul had become slightly stronger. It felt good to slowly grow stronger, but the current situation did not allow her to slowly complete quests. After all, war was about to break out. Soon, Zhu Jun gathered the skeletons that had already formed their golden bodies. Ning Shu said, "Wait for my notice." Ning Shu left the world of reincarnation, but he didn't go to the void. Instead, he went to the world of nothingness. The secret river in the world of nothingness contained the supreme martial arts. She had to go to Nihility to take a look at the situation of the peerless martial arts. After all, if a war really broke out, it probably wouldn't end anytime soon. She wouldn't even know if something happened to the peerless martial arts. Now, he had to retrieve the peerless martial art and place it in the system space. In the system space, at least Dan Qin could help to look after it. The peerless martial arts floated above the secret river, absorbing energy. Ning Shu reached out and took the peerless martial arts back, returning it to the system space. "Help me look after this world." Ning Shu placed the peerless martial arts on the tea table and said to Dan Qin. Dan Qin said, "I understand. You should go to the void now." Ning Shu nodded and jumped to the location of the space node. In the void, two sides were facing each other. There was a black mass of insects, while there were many troops here. There were also Abyssal Prefect skeletons, Abyssal Prefect Senior Uncle, and many generals standing at the front of the troops. Ning Shu walked to the team of mission enforcers and stood beside the Cheongsam man. He whispered, "You're here too? Even the law incarnations are here." The Cheongsam man looked very worried. "Last time, I barely escaped death. Why is it starting again?" He could say that he was lucky to survive last time, but if it happened again, the Cheongsam man couldn't guarantee that he would survive. Ning Shu said, "There's nothing I can do." Starting a war was just a word from the higher-ups, but for them, the consequences might be their lives. Therefore, they could only try their best to survive. The law incarnations gathered together again. Ning Shu didn't have a good relationship with these law incarnations, so there would definitely be some estrangement when they worked together. Some of the law incarnations present also had a strange expression when they saw Ning Shu. Ning Shu looked indifferently at the big ship on the side of the insects. Little Mouse was standing on the deck. "Get out of the way. I'm just looking for someone. I'm going to the plane to find someone." "Don't stop me," Little Mouse said directly. "I'm not in the mood to fight with you guys right now. I just want to find someone." Little Mouse's heart was in suspense because it couldn't find Li Wen. It didn't care about these planes at all. Even if it ate planes, there were many planes in the void. Li Wen was more important now. With so many people blocking it, it was impossible for it to find someone. Little Mouse was very annoyed. It just wanted to go to the plane behind these people to find Li Wen. Li Wen might have returned to the plane where it was born. "I don't want to fight. Don't provoke me." Little Mouse's voice was very loud. "If you guys want to stop me, I'll tear you apart." And he stood up and said directly, "If we don't agree, we won't let you enter the plane." And his words were deliberately provoking Little Mouse. According to Little Mouse's bad temper and low IQ, it would definitely explode. Sure enough, Little Mouse heard his words and exploded. "You guys are looking for death. I don't care if I'm going to eat these planes and eat all of you." Ning Shu wanted to facepalm a little. The second day after Li Wen disappeared, he missed him. If Li Wen was here now, The situation might be better now. It seemed that the organization was determined to destroy these insects. Coincidentally, Li Wen disappeared again, and the insects were burning with anxiety. The Cheongsam man whispered, looking at the situation, the insects don't want to attack. Of course, compared to attacking these broken planes, Little Mouse cared more about Li Wen. Now, it was not a matter of whether the insects wanted to fight or not. Ning Shu felt that Mouse's love for Li Wen was true. What was Li Wen thinking in his heart? If there was no insect race to protect Li Wen in the void, it would be very dangerous for Li Wen to be alone. He really couldn't bear to see all these insects be destroyed. Although they were locust-like creatures, they were useful to Li Wen. Li Wen shouldn't give them up. In fact, peaceful development was the best situation. Ning Shu felt that the organization couldn't withstand the torment. He couldn't figure out what the higher-ups were thinking. Chapter 3347. Little Rat seemed to be trying hard to suppress his temper. He said, "Let me go and find her. If you let me go, I promise I won't harass you anymore. I won't come to your plane again. Is that okay?" Little Mouse saw that there were so many people on the other side. If they really wanted to fight, it would take a lot of time. It would really delay his search. A broken law, see, so what if he let it go? It was not as important as Li Wen. Could the insect's words be trusted? Could the insect's promise be trusted? Clearly, the organization did not take the insect's words to heart. The man in the Cheongsam said to Ning Shu, "We're in a group. We can take care of each other later." Ning Shu nodded in agreement. Awan thought about it and stood beside Ning Shu. The others started to form teams. Clearly, Ning Shu's team had the least number of people. There were only 3 of them. The others had a lot of people. Ning Shu felt that someone was staring at him. He looked over and saw Zhang Jiasen through the crowd. Zhang Jiasen was standing at the side. If one did not pay attention, they would not notice him. Law incarnations had to go to the battlefield. Speaking of which, Zhang Jiasen was a shaman law incarnation. Although there was no law space now, the imprints on these law incarnations were still there. Zhang Jiasen smiled at Ning Shu. His smile was very bright, revealing his white teeth. If Ning Shu did not understand Zhang Jiasen's character, he would have been confused by his current appearance. Ning Shu calmly retracted his gaze. So what if Zhang Jiasen dared to make a move now? He would definitely lose his life and the shaman law imprint. During the last battle, he had snatched a wood law imprint. He did not know if he would gain anything this time. Ning Shu would not backstab, but if the law incarnation died, he would definitely snatch the law imprint. If he did not snatch it, he would be letting himself down. There were originally 3 imprints on him, but they were all broken. He might gain something this time. Ning Shu felt that the shaman law was not bad. What surprised Ning Shu was that Zhang Jiasen actually squeezed over and stood with the 3 of them. The man in the Cheongsam and Awan did not know Zhang Jiasen. They did not say anything about the people who came to team up with them. At a time like this, it was good to have one more person to team up with. Ning Shu looked at Zhang Jiasen coldly. "What are you doing here?" Zhang Jiasen said, "Aren't we forming a team? I'm in the same team as you now. Is there a problem?" Ning Shu felt that Zhang Jiasen was like a slug, but he couldn't care less about this in the current situation. If Zhang Jiasen dared to play any tricks, they could take advantage of the chaos to finish off Zhang Jiasen. Swords and sabers had no eyes on the battlefield. It was normal for people to die. Since he didn't know what Zhang Jiasen was planning, he would fail. Not to mention that these insects were very strong. With Zhang Jiasen's strength, even ordinary insects would be hard-pressed to deal with. You still have time to scheme against others? If they really fought, Ning Shu hoped that Zhang Jiasen would do it. Once he did, she would kill him in an instant. His soul would be destroyed and he would disappear from this world. Thinking about it made him a little excited. The Cheongsam man's eyes scanned back and forth between Ning Shu and Zhang Jiasen. It was unknown what he saw, but he smiled. The little mouse was obviously not a patient person. After being blocked again and again, he shouted impatiently, "Tear an opening for me. I'll go to the world to find someone." With these people blocking the way, he had no way of finding Li Wen. The insects received the order and pressed forward in a black mass. And he raised his hand and fired a shot. The sound of the shot was very penetrating. Attack! The two sides started to converge like a tide. All kinds of gorgeous moves flew in the sky. The insects' attack method was very simple. They just rushed forward and used their strong bodies to crush the other party with their large numbers. The mission enforcers hurriedly took out their weapons. Ning Shu took out the god-beating whip. The whip lashed out at the insects that were coming over. The god-beating whip was something produced in the void. When it hit the insects, it directly tore open their bodies. The insects wailed. Obviously, they were in extreme pain from the god-beating whip. As expected, only things from the void could deal with creatures from the void. Ordinary weapons were useless against these insects. Ning Shu attached his spiritual power to the god-beating whip. He waved the whip and hit the insects until they were covered in wounds. However, there were too many of them. Ning Shu's whip was a little overwhelmed. The Chongsam man next to him slowed down time. He could slow down the movements of these insects. The range of the release was very large. Once Ah Wan's fire rule was released, a large sea of fire was born. These sticky flames stuck to the insects' bodies and burned them until they cried out in pain. However, it could not stop the insects from attacking. Ning Shu attached his will of death to the god-beating whip. The small scales on the god-beating whip protruded and shone with a cold light. Ning Shu lashed out with the whip. The whip touched the insect. With a snap, the insect was annihilated into ashes. Ning Shu was shocked by such a powerful force. As expected, death was the most powerful thing. Ning Shu thought like a Chunibyu. Although the mission enforcer's rule incarnation was using all kinds of methods, the power of the rule incarnation was not much of a threat to these insects that lived in the void. A whistle sounded. These insects rioted and increased their pace. There were many people standing on the deck of the ship. Little Mouse stood at the front, commanding the insects to tear open a hole. Li Wen, where did that damned Li Wen go? He abandoned me and ran away. That heartless thing. I just quarreled with him for a while and he ran away. He didn't mean what he said. Wah damned Li Wen. If it wasn't for the war, Little Mouse would have cried out loud. The insects sped up their attack. The mission enforcer's side had always been the weakest point. They did not seek to kill the enemy. They only sought to defend. Little Mouse's side was very anxious. The organization was determined to eliminate these locusts. There were many weapons hidden in the dark. Some of the powerful weapons could kill a large number of insects with a single shot. They directly annihilated these insects into ashes. The organization was going all out this time. Be careful. Zhang Jiasen reached out and pulled Ning Shu, allowing him to avoid the insect's claws. Originally, Ning Shu could have dodged and killed the insects. However, with Zhang Jiasen's pull, he dodged but did not kill the insects. Zhang Jiasen asked, "Are you okay?" The concern in his eyes was very sincere. Ning Shu shook off his hand. "I'm fine." "That's good," Zhang Jiasen said. "I don't want you to die here." Zhang Jiasen held his weapon. His weapon was an ordinary scimitar. It looked very sharp and could leave marks on the insects' bodies. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.